Chapter 550, Culprit of Stealing the Young Cub, 2. Yunli's face became extremely white at the sight. Now that things had gotten to where they were, he knew that there was no longer any possible way he could get out of this situation. Even the most perfect lie would be unable to trick them, and Jian Shen was no idiot. Kai Er and the other three's faces were thunderous as they furiously glared at Yunli. In their eyes, their rage could not be hidden. So, the mysterious assailant that snuck into our flame mercenaries to steal away the cub and kill Duo Kong was you. I never would have imagined that the man we had desperately searched for all this time would be you. Mo Tian snarled as he glared at Yunli as if he was a bloodthirsty animal that wanted nothing more than to skin his scalp, devour his flesh, and drink his blood. Practically lifeless where he stood, Yunli found no words to say. Although he wanted to avoid this subject entirely, Yunli couldn't find the words to quibble to avoid trouble, especially when he thought about the words he had spoken to Jian Shen earlier before the Class 5 magical beast cub came back to bite him. Jian Shen had been right to say that the culprit would be with the cub. As long as the cub was found, then the culprit would be found as well. I never would have imagined that it would be you who stole the Class 5 magical beast cub, Yunli. To think that you were the one that killed Duo Kong, how stupid we were. We should have realized it was you earlier. Throughout Wake City, the person most likely to have a battle skill while also being the biggest unknown to us would be the ruler of the city. How repulsive, how utterly repulsive. We never suspected it was you from the very beginning. Kai Er was furious as well. His face filled with a furious murderous intent. Qin Feng looked to Jian Shen and said to him with indignation, "Captain, now that Duo Kang's killer has been found, we cannot let him go. Duo Kong would never rest in peace if we did. We cannot let his death go unavenged." Qin Feng's words had caused a fluctuation in Yunli's face and a light had begun to twinkle in his eyes. Nodding, Jian Shen stared straight at Yunli. "Yunli, do you have anything to say for yourself?" Knowing in his heart that there was no way to spin things in a way to justify himself, Yunli had decided to hide nothing from them. "Correct. The one who infiltrated your flame mercenaries that night was me. The one who stole the Class 5 magical beast cub was also me, and Duo Kong died by my hands as well. But no matter the case, I, Yunli, am the Lord of Wake City and an official of the Blue Wind Kingdom. Should you harm an official of the Blue Wind Kingdom, then you will be challenging the authority of the kingdom as enemies. The kingdom as a whole will not sit idly by the side should you harm me." Yunli's words made Jian Shen's eyes twinkle with an icy light, and a sneer appeared on the edge of his lips. Kai Er and the others narrowed their eyes with concern. The Blue Wind Kingdom was a huge beast they had no chance of provoking, so the words of Yunli had frightened them. "You value the Blue Wind Kingdom far too much to use them to hide behind in front of me. How ridiculous you are." Jian Shen laughed with a disdainful expression. Yunli started at that. He had thought that Jian Shen would be at least intimidated by the very mention of the Blue Wind Kingdom. The way Jian Shen saw as nothing more than an insect made him feel like there was absolutely nothing he could do to help himself now. "Jian Shen, does your flame mercenaries truly desire to become enemies with the Blue Wind Kingdom?" Yunli sternly barked. Despite his voice, his heart felt uneasy when Yunli thought about the fuzzy details of Jian Shen's background. Jian Shen was truly a mysterious individual in his eyes. At the very least, he knew that Jian Shen was the captain of the flame mercenaries, but he lacked every other piece of information about him. Seeing the skill and the atmosphere Jian Shen carried with him, Yunli had no doubts that Jian Shen was not some sort of savage or uncultured villager. The Blue Wind Kingdom? They have no right to stand as an enemy to me. Kai Er, tie up our esteemed lord and escort him out. Jian Shen commanded. Yes. Hearing their captain utterly reject the Blue Wind Kingdom as something not worth noticing, the four of them stomached their fear and hurried to capture Yunli per Jian Shen's orders. "I'd like to see you try. I am a lord and bureaucrat of the Blue Wind Kingdom." Yunli exploded with rage. Unafraid of the group in front of him, his hand took out his sword in preparation to do battle. "Capture him," Jian Shen commanded. Without hesitation, the group took out their own saint weapons and began to charge at Yunli. A strange light appeared in Yunli's eyes. Not running up to fight with Kai Er and the others, his sword flew back to strike the wall, creating a hole. Leaping out of it, he opened his mouth to cry out, "Assassins! The flame mercenaries are rebelling. Soldiers, come eliminate them." Yunli's voice was so great that not only did the soldiers within the mansion hear him, even the soldiers stationed out on the streets could hear his command loud and clear. Every single soldier from within the mansion immediately mobilized into action. Even the ones outside began to pile in from the streets to join in. Those bystanders outside felt stunned by what they had heard. They immediately began to talk among each other. Did I hear that right? Are the flame mercenaries rebelling? The flame mercenaries are the strongest group of mercenaries within Wake City. What reason do they have for a rebellion? I heard that the captain came back last night. Has he gone Aaron in the head? In the magical beast invasion 2 years ago, the captain of the flame mercenaries was one of the greatest contributors to the city. Why would he rebel? Yunli's words had caused a tremendous explosion of conversations in the streets. No matter if it was a civilian, merchant, or mercenary that heard him, none of them could understand him. Within a span of several seconds, over 300 soldiers were jam-packed around the area so tightly that even water couldn't escape. Under the protection of several soldiers, Yunli could be seen coldly smiling at Jian Chen. Even after being surrounded by these 300 men, Jian Chen and the other had remained unmoved. Their expression were calm, especially those of Ming Dong, De Gufeng, Yunzheng, and Signorin. When they saw the soldiers, they seemed as if they were staring at nothing itself. "My esteemed lord, it goes without saying that you are childish. Do you really think this small amount of soldiers will be able to force us into submission?" Ming Dong mockingly snorted at Yunli. "I do. How could they not? Don't forget that I have the 100,000 soldiers of Wake City under my command. Rebels you lot are, rebels I say. From today henceforth, the Blue Wind Kingdom will shelter your flame mercenaries no more." Yunli knew that there was no way Jian Chen would forgive him, so he had thrown caution to the wind as he committed to this final gambit in the form of the 100,000 soldiers he had. Killing the soldiers in charge of defending the city was different than killing a civilian or even a merchant. This was tantamount to an act of war against the Blue Wind Kingdom itself and would warrant further punishment. According to his own thoughts, if the flame mercenaries were captured and tried for a sin as grave as rebellion and conspiracy, even the figures behind the mercenaries would be useless. Conspiracy and intent to rebel? "My esteemed lord, do you take our heads for hats?" Ming Dong merrily laughed. "Do you think this would scare us? Humph, a group of insurgents that remains unchanging even when death is at hand. Soldiers, kill them all." Yunli barked out a decisive order. Without hesitation, the 300 soldiers charged straight at the group in front of them. Laughing, Ming Dong's body immediately flashed away as an azure light that flew through the crowd and toward Yunli. Before Yunli could even react, both of Ming Dong's palms had flown out several times to send the soldiers near Yunli flying, and with another stretch of his right hand, Ming Dong clasped onto Yunli's throat. Ming Dong had been so fast that Yunli couldn't even see what had just transpired. A choking sensation swelled up within Yunli's throat as terror flooded his senses once he realized that his throat was held tightly by the enemy. At the same time, Yunzheng, Signorin, and De Gufeng let their saint force wrap their palms before they shot, with a wave of energy, at the surrounding soldiers, sending some flying. Plenty of them were knocked so hard that blood flew out from their mouths from the damage they received. As Earth Saint Masters, there was no need to waste so much energy on these soldiers who were far weaker than them. Completely terror-stricken, Yunli could hardly believe his eyes. There was no way he would have imagined that Ming Dong would possess such a tremendous amount of power. "Brothers, I've captured the Lord. What shall we do with him, kill or cripple?" Ming Dong asked Jian Chen. Yunli's face paled when he heard Ming Dong, but because of the tight hold on his throat, he couldn't even say anything in response. "There's no need to deal with him that quickly. Tie him up and carry him out," Jian Chen replied. "Fine, but let's take some precautions. Let's rough him up a bit to make sure he loses his will to fight." With that, Ming Dong slapped his palm into Yunli's chest. Pa! A mouthful of blood immediately sprayed out of Yunli's mouth after having been injured by Ming Dong. Shortly afterward, Kai Er and the others had found some iron chains to tie up Yunli. His arms were chained behind his back with the chains looping around his neck. Then, under the eyes of all the soldiers there, Yunli, the lord and ruler of Wake City, was taken from the mansion without obstruction. The flame mercenaries have gone rogue and captured the lord. Go, notify Commander Duo Li immediately. One of the soldiers cried out for another to go run for the commander. Kai Er and the others kept a close watch on the injured Yunli as they followed Jian Shen from the mansion. The cage with the Class 5 magical beast cub had remained with them. Right behind the group, all of the soldiers followed with anxious looks. They had originally planned on blocking Jian Shen from leaving, but when they thought about how terrifying Du Gafeng and the others were, their fear caused their hearts to tremble, overriding their courage to fight. Chapter 551, Citywide Commotion. Jian Shen, Ming Dong, and the others continued to travel on top of their Class 3 magical beast mounts back to the Kai family's compound as if nothing had happened. Right behind them, Kai Er and the other three pushed and prodded the trussed-up Yunli. Now that Yunli had been heavily injured by Ming Dong and had been tied up in chains, his body was in an extremely weak state. Combined with the fact that the four men around him were as strong as him and the terrifying figures of Ming Dong and Jian Shen in front of him, Yunli didn't bother to waste any time with trying to break free from his bonds. He knew that it would be impossible to escape. Jian Shen and the group continued to walk through the streets of Wake City with the lord held captive. On the way, everyone turned to gawk with disbelieving eyes. None of them ever would have thought that the flame mercenaries would actually do something like hold the lord of Wake City captive in chains. The flame mercenaries are conspiring against the Blue Wind Kingdom. They have plans to rebel and turn traitor against the kingdom. Do not let them walk free. Take up your weapons and kill the flame mercenaries, and you will all be rewarded for your services. Although Yunli was chained up, he was more than willing to speak and try to worsen the crimes of Jian Shen, hoping that he could give them all even more trouble. The eyes of the bystanders nearby the flame mercenaries changed in intensity after hearing Yunli's words. Shortly after they passed, everyone began to talk with each other, but none of them were stupid. They simply wouldn't believe that the flame mercenaries would rebel against the Blue Wind Kingdom on the words of the Lord alone. Combined with the strength of the mercenaries within Wake City, no one dared step into their path to stop them. Staring disdainfully at Yunli behind him, Jian Shen prodded, "Lord Yunli, I respected you 2 years ago, and thought you to be an honest and upright person. I never would have thought that your true self, hidden deep within, would be so crass, committing the acts of stealing the cub from my flame mercenaries and killing a senior figure after being exposed. Your avarice has made me quite mistaken in my judgment." Kai Er, stuff his mouth. Jian Shen, you belligerent savage. I am an official of the Blue Wind Kingdom. How can you treat me this way? You are challenging the authority of the Blue Wind Kingdom itself. We will never let you lead. At this point, Kai Er stuffed a piece of cloth into his mouth. Jian Shen's words had stunned everyone who heard him. I've heard that the flame mercenaries obtained a Class 5 magical beast before it was taken by a thief in the middle of the night. I never would have imagined that it was Lord Yunli that stole the beast and killed one of their leaders. Look, isn't the monster in that cage the Class 5 magical beast cub? So, the beast was stolen by Lord Yunli after all. The fact that the flame mercenaries had so many of their men looking for the one who stole it caused a huge uproar back then. The last I heard was that not even a single clue was found, but if it was the lord that stole it, it's no wonder no trace was found. This is most likely some crock and bull story from the flame mercenaries. The truth of this matter needs to be investigated. The streets were buzzing with conversation as everyone began to share their perspectives. Some believed that Jian Shen was telling the truth. Yunli had stolen the cub and killed a senior figure of the mercenaries. Others believed that Jian Shen was making use of an excuse to frame and trap the lord. However, no matter what was said, not a single person moved to stop them. The Defiance mercenaries had long since left Wake City, and after their departure, everyone knew that the Flame mercenaries were back as the strongest mercenary group with no equal. On the Tianyuan continent, power was the most important matter for everything. Everything could be solved through power. Things like reason and logic only existed when both sides were equal in strength. By the time Jianchen returned to the Kai family compound, news that Yunli had been captured by them had spread like wildfire through the city. Practically everyone and everything had heard of it in some form. Like a giant bomb that had gone off, everyone was extremely surprised to hear this news. Wake City was a third-class city at most, but Yunli was still its ruler and an official of the kingdom as a whole. If the flame mercenaries were so brazen to capture and imprison Yunli, then they were directly challenging the authority of the Blue Wind Kingdom, making them an enemy. For the sake of their own honor and prestige, there was no way the Blue Wind Kingdom would ignore this matter. Back within the inner courtyards of the Kai family, Yunli was forced to kneel in front of a pillar where the memorial tablet of Duo Kong stood. Outside, plenty of strong-looking men had flowed in one after another. While procuring their equipment for their mission, the men of the Flame Mercenaries had heard about what had happened and dropped everything to return back to the compound. When they heard that it was Yunli that had stolen the Class 5 magical beast cub and killed Duo Kong, their eyes were filled with hatred beyond belief. Just then, a large concentration of footsteps could be heard outside. Following that, a single guard came running in to report, "Captain, a large group of the city soldiers have gathered." Jianchen lazily waved a hand, "Not to worry, open the doors, let them in." Hence, the gates to the Kai family compound were opened wide. A group of armored soldiers could be seen marching toward them in a denomination of over 1,000. The sounds of their footsteps soon came to a stop, and everyone was keenly aware that they had the entire Kai family compound surrounded. A single soldier came forward with a small detachment of soldiers following him in. This was Commander Duoli, staring at the kneeling Yunli with hardened eyes. Duoli turned to look at Jianchen. "Jianchen, what is the meaning of this? Why are you treating the lord of the city in such a manner?" Emotionlessly, Jianchen replied, "Yunli stole the Class 5 magical beast cub from my flame mercenaries and then killed the senior figure Duo Kong. His crimes cannot be forgiven." Yunli spat out the cloth that had been stuffed in his mouth, and mustered all the justice he could. "Duoli, don't listen to Jianchen's bull. The flame mercenaries are planning to rebel against the kingdom. Their greed knows no bounds. They have decided to frame me for their schemes." Seeing how honest Yunli had looked, Duoli had no idea whether he was being lied to or not. "You still dare to quibble?" Kai Er snorted and kicked Yunli. Duoli thought for a moment before replying, "Jianchen, when Wake City had been under siege by a magical beast invasion, your contributions were widely respected by me, but to treat the lord of the city in such a manner is not acceptable. Release the lord and I will at the very least make the report to the higher-ups for justice for the death of one of your own." Jianchen shook his head. "There is no need for such troubles. There is no injustice or hatred I have with Yunli. For what reason would I have to put false charges on him? Even if I did hate him, I would not put such a despicable crime on him if it were false. I have made my decision that he is the assailant without question. Yunli will be punished in accordance to our flame mercenaries." Duo Li's face grew dark as he cupped his hands to Jianchen. "Jianchen, although I respect you greatly, the ruler of the city cannot be disgraced in such a manner. If this is how you will continue, then please forgive this one for my offense." Duo Li waved his hand and commanded, "Everyone, rescue the lord." At his command, every single soldier charged into the courtyards. Even the soldiers surrounding the place had flown over the walls to charge at Jianchen's group in huge numbers. With a hearty laugh, Ming Dong held out his azure-colored sword. He said, "Good timing, let me show you the might of my earth-tier battle skill, cloud-destroying cyclone." A strong burst of wind attributed Saint force began to flood from Ming Dong before transforming into a tremendous cyclone that seemed to ascend into the sky where the clouds roamed. Soon, the cyclone spun around so fast that the clouds began to dissipate. With such a tremendous cyclone appearing in the courtyards, the surrounding walls of the courtyards began to violently shake. Even the soldiers charging at Jianchen were nearly sucked into it. Unable to keep their balance, it took everything they could to remain attached to the ground. However, the cyclone did nothing to affect Jianchen's group. Seeing the dreadful cyclone appear from nowhere, Duo Li's face blanched as he cried out, "Earth tier battle skill." You're an Earth Saint Master. Laughing, Ming Dong gave a violent shake of his sword. The cyclone began to expand even quicker now. It forced the winds to blow even stronger so that the soldiers were pulled into the air without any way of protecting themselves. At this sight, Duo Li couldn't maintain his stoic expression anymore. This was the very first time he had seen an Earth-tier battle skill. Doing his best to retreat several steps without flying away, Duo Li commanded, "Everyone, retreat. Retreat now." Seeing the tornado consume several soldiers, all of the surrounding soldiers who had not yet took part in the charge began to retreat before Duo Li even gave his command. As they tried to flee from the cyclone, their eyes reflected their fear. If they were to be sucked into this cyclone and sent hundreds of meters into the air, chances were that they would die from hitting the ground too hard. Even Yunli, who was still kneeling on the ground, turned completely white when he saw the cyclone that reached into the sky. With a rather disheartened murmur, he said, "An Earth-tier battle skill, he has one of those?" Chapter 552. Men from Tianlong City. A tremendous cyclone speared through the sky into the clouds before turning the sky into a surging sea of clouds for all of Wake City to see. The furious waves of wind let out a wailing screech that kicked up dust everywhere within the proximity of the city. Dust covered the sky and sun, forming a dusky sight. A heaven-tier battle skill was strong enough to cause the sky to whirl and transform with its might. Although an Earth-tier battle skill was far weaker than a heaven-tier battle skill, Ming Dong's strength as a sixth-cycle Earth Saint Master was strong enough to create such a sight. In front of the eyes of everyone, all of Wake City was treated to a once-in-a-lifetime event. The gigantic cyclone was noticeable throughout Wake City and caused another big stir among the populace. Many of them were startled by the sudden sight and displayed panicked expressions. Many of them were curious, but far more of them were terrified. "Everyone, look! Look at how many soldiers are being sent flying by that cyclone." Fearfully, one of the more sharp-eyed men cried out at the sight above of them. Whipping their heads up to stare in rapt attention, everyone noticed that sure enough, plenty of soldiers could be seen whirling about the cyclone without falling back to the ground. "If I'm not mistaken, those are the soldiers in charge of our city's defenses. What is going on? Why did this cyclone appear, and why is it not moving at all? It's a battle skill for sure. Dear heavens, this has to be a battle skill, and a high-leveled one at that. I heard that when some of the more advanced battle skills are used, they can shake the heavens themselves. Look at this scene, it's similar to what the rumors say. It has to be an Earth-tier battle skill at the very least, or one of those legendary Heaven-tier battle skills. Since when did our Wake City have one of those? That's the area where the Flame Mercenaries entrenched themselves. I heard that they just brought the Lord of the city as captive there a small while ago. Now the experts of both sides have to be fighting, but I never expected a battle skill to be used. It has to be a strong battle then, we should take a look. A battle like this is once in a lifetime, it'd be a shame to miss this. Quick, let's take a look. A fight between experts is rare to come by, we can't miss this." The streets were filled with people as they quickly flew through them headed to the location where the cyclone was originating from. Mercenaries and civilians alike were trying the most to catch sight of a fight that would undoubtedly be unforgettable. In the courtyards, Commander Duo Li and his soldiers were retreating as far as they could with their faces overwhelmed with shock at the cyclone in front of them. Kai Er, Qingfeng, Charkis, and Mo Tian were stunned by Ming Dong's technique. They felt a newfound appreciation for him in their hearts. Even in their eyes, their adoration could hardly be concealed. Half a moment later, Duo Li let out a mouthful of air to try and calm himself, but he could not help but think that in 2 years' worth of time since the captain of the Flame Mercenaries left, he was able to pull in an Earth Saint Master. With one of those overseeing the group, there would be no faction capable of going against them in Wake City. It would appear that with my strength alone, I will not be able to rescue the Lord. Hesitating, Duo Li yelled in a large voice, "Jian Chen, if there is still room to negotiate, this one hopes you will show some mercy and forgive this simple soldier. Ming Dong, cease your hand and don't endanger the lives of these soldiers." Jian Chen commanded Ming Dong. Ming Dong nodded and slowly began to revoke his Earth-tier battle skill. With Jian Chen's control over the wind elements of the world, he began to slowly ease the flying soldiers back down to the ground. Despite Ming Dong intentionally making his cyclone weak enough to not kill any soldier, they were all still extremely lightheaded and blurry-eyed. Commander Duo Li, take your men and leave. The matters with Yun Li have no business with you. If you fail to listen, I won't be as merciless as I was just now. Jian Chen stated. Duo Li's face grew serious when he heard Jian Chen's words, but he said nothing as he cupped his hands together to leave with his soldiers. He now knew that the Flame Mercenaries had an Earth Saint Master with an Earth-tier battle skill, making them far stronger than what any regular Earth Saint Master could accomplish. Thus, Wake City had no way of dealing with the Flame Mercenaries. With faces ashen from dust and dejection, Duo Li and his soldiers left the courtyards to return to the Lord's mansion. As soon as Duo Li entered his own room, he immediately set his brush to paper and began to write. Finally rolling up his message into a scroll, he attached it to the leg of a lightning bird and set it free. As it soared through the air, the lightning bird gave a flap of its silver-white wings and transformed into a bolt of lightning that quickly disappeared into the horizon. The Kai family's compound had become a mess with part of the walls partly collapsed because of the cyclone. Plenty of the mercenaries, merchants, and civilians, who had gathered around, stood a decent distance away, fearful of taking another step closer. The Lord of Wake City was still kneeling on the ground with the memorial tablet of Duo Kong in front of him. Look! Isn't that the Lord Yunli tied up to the pillar? To think that the Flame Mercenaries would treat the Lord of a city in such a manner. A mercenary group kidnapping the Lord of a city? What a huge story. But this goes to show how strong the Flame Mercenaries are if even the government of the city is helpless to do anything. Wouldn't the actions of the Flame Mercenaries mean that they're unafraid of the Blue Wind Kingdom? Although they are strong, they cannot go head-to-head against the entire kingdom. Perhaps the Flame Mercenaries have an even stronger support that doesn't fear the Blue Wind Kingdom. The crowd outside the Kai family's compound grew larger and larger as news of what happened spread throughout the city. Soon enough, the Kai family and the Flame Mercenaries grew more and more famous in Wake City. For a mercenary group to kidnap a city lord, this was a huge story for the Blue Wind Kingdom. Kai Air will be putting the trip to the magical Beast Mountain Range on hold for now. Guard Yunli and make sure he stays in front of Duo Kang's memorial table to grieve for 7 days. After 7 days are over, execute him. Do not let anyone near him in the meanwhile. Jian Chen ordered. Yes, Captain. Everyone replied with respect. With Jian Chen being willing to execute Yunli for his murder of Duo Kong, everyone within the Flame Mercenaries felt moved. Jian Chen won their love and respect once more. 4 hours later in a first-class city called Tianlong City, the lord of the city was reading book when a guard came running in with a letter in his hands. Handing it over, the guard retreated. Taking the letter and opening it, the lord of Tianlong City began to read. As he read, his face grew darker and darker before slamming the table and standing up in anger. Ridiculous. How utterly absurd this is. A tiny mercenary group has imprisoned the lord of a city? Where is their common sense? It is truly ridiculous. Men! Call out Kat Ada, Katafii, and Yunlong to me. Soon enough, Kat Ada, Katafii, and Yunlong arrived in the study room. Each one of them looked to be around 40 years old in age. Cupping his hands together, Kat Ada spoke, "My lord, for you to call us brothers together in such a hurry, what seems to be the matter? It is a ridiculous tale. A small mercenary group has kidnapped the lord of a city. They are taking the officials of the Blue Wind Kingdom to be gnats in their eyes. The 3 of you will lead a detachment to Wake City with due haste." The lord spoke with a grim expression. Having a group of mercenaries kidnap and tie up a city lord was utterly intolerable. "Yes, my lord." All 3 of them replied before setting off. Within the Kai family compound, Jian Chen and Ming Dong had already retired to their rooms to rest. They handed over the rest of the matters to Kai Air and the others to deal with. "Jian Chen, Yunli is still a city lord. Are you really going to kill him? This is the Blue Wind Kingdom, not the Jessen Kingdom." Tai Ta asked in concern. Although he knew Jian Chen was a heaven saint master, becoming an enemy of the entire Blue Wind Kingdom was something that was very deadly in the eyes of Tai Ta. With his own strength, there was no way he would be able to defend himself. Jian Chen chuckled, Tai Ta, what I'm doing is well within what is acceptable. The Blue Wind Kingdom is nothing to fear. You just need to focus on if we ever lose our path of development. Tai Ta, you need some courage in you. Feel free to watch from the side. Look at us. See how none of us are concerned, so why should you be? You only just started your travels on the Tianyuan continent, there's still plenty for you to learn. Ming Dong added. Seeing how relaxed everyone was, Tai Ta couldn't help but feel slightly less worried. Oh, fine then. I'll follow you without a word. The next day outside of Wake City, a single group of armored soldiers could be seen flying down the roads at high speeds on their magical beast mounts. After being welcomed in by Duo Li and his soldiers, the group began to talk to one another. After the negotiations were over, the detachment of soldiers immediately moved into Wake City and headed toward the home of the Kai family. Almost a cup of tea's worth of time later, Kai Er came walking into Jian Chen's room with a grim expression. Captain, men from Tianlong City have arrived. I know. You may leave. Jian Chen's voice could be heard from inside. Chapter 553, Meeting an Acquaintance once more. Yes, Captain. Kai Er responded before retreating back into the courtyard. The sight of a large group of soldiers could be seen through the broken-down parts of the wall as they slowly neared the compound. Kai Er, Qingfeng, Mo Tian, and Charkis all stood by the gates with the flame mercenaries standing behind them in silent solitude. Each one of them had a grim expression, but there was no worry to be seen. Not too far away, the disheveled and haggard face of Yunli had noticed the arrival of the reinforcements from the Blue Wind Kingdom. With eyes that reflected his joy, Yunli had already begun to think of himself as good as rescued. However, with the cloth still stuck in his mouth, he could not talk, otherwise, he would have long since let out a loud yell. The 500 soldiers from Tianlong City came to a stop near the Kai family's courtyard while 3 middle-aged men came forward. These 3 men were Cat Ada, Katafei, and Yun Long, who had been ordered by the lord of Tianlong City to go help. Seeing the tied-up figure of Yunli, Yun Long's eyes flickered with a furious glint. How absurd is this group of mercenaries? To treat the lord of a city in such a manner is unforgivable. Cat Ada sighed. I did not think that the mercenary group that captured the city lord would in fact be the flame mercenaries. That makes this situation quite difficult. Looking to Yun Long, Cat Ada said, Brother Yun Long, let us wait a little longer before we reach a conclusion. 2 years ago, I happened to meet the captain of the flame mercenaries and learned a little about him. He is not as simple as one might think he is. Please allow Katafei and I to handle this and ask what has caused this situation to happen. The Captain Jian Chen is not an impulsive and reckless person. If he treats the city lord in such a manner, there is surely a reason for it. Fine, I'll leave it to you. I hope that the captain is as you say he is. Yun Long spoke apathetically. With a smile, Cat Ada leaped off his magical beast mount and strode into the courtyards. Smiling to everyone, he said, If I might bother everyone, please inform your Captain Jian Chen that Cat Ada has come to pay a visit. Cat Ada did not reveal an angry expression at all, but rather a kindly one as he smiled at everyone. It's been 2 years since we last met, Cat Ada. You haven't changed a bit. Just as Kai Er was about to respond, a single voice could be heard from behind him as the white-robed Jian Chen came out of his room. Right behind him were Ming Dong, De Gufeng, Seniorin, Yunzheng, Tai Ta, and Yu Yu in close succession. Recognizing Jian Chen, Cat Ada smiled and cupped his hands in greeting. Yes, I haven't changed at all, but on the other hand, Jian Chen, you've changed quite a bit. I barely recognized you just now. As he spoke, Katada's eyes swept over the men behind Jian Chen. Although he couldn't tell the actual level of strength of Jian Chen, Ming Dong, De Gufeng, Seniorin, or Yunzheng, they all looked to be as powerful as himself. When Cat Ada saw those 4, his eyes wavered with confusion. Cat Ada had no way of confirming just what cycle Ming Dong and the others were at in the Earth Saint Master realm, but he could distinctly tell that they were of the same level of strength as him, Earth Saint Masters. At this result, Cat Ada was extremely shocked. 2 years ago, the Flame Mercenaries weren't nearly strong enough for him to take note of. Aside from Jian Qin, there were no other noticeable figures. However, within a mere 2 years, 4 Earth Saint Masters had appeared out of nowhere. That was news of shocking proportions. Captain Jian Qin, these 4 brothers must be your friends. Cat Ada laughed. Knowing that Cat Ada was trying to discern the relationship between the 4 men behind him and himself, Jian Qin smiled. They are members of my Flame Mercenaries. Cat Ada could only grumble to himself in silent pain. If the Flame Mercenaries had 4 Earth Saint Masters, then his strength had been curbed here. He had originally thought that this would be a simple task, but now that the opposing side possessed such a large strength, Cat Ada felt that he and the others wouldn't be enough for this task. Cat Ada showed no emotion on his face other than a faint smile. Captain Jian Qin, I did not expect the Flame Mercenaries to grow so much in 2 years. I am truly impressed. Jian Qin returned the smile, having no desire to skirt around the issue with Cat Ada. He said, Cat Ada, you must have come to Wake City for the purpose of saving Yunli, I assume. Seeing that Jian Qin had taken the initiative to speak, Cat Ada minced no words either. Thinking for a moment, he nodded his head. You are correct. We came here to Wake City on behalf of the city lord all the way from Tianlong City. Katada's face grew stern as he continued to speak to Jian Qin. Jian Qin, I don't know what issue was started between you and the lord of Wake City, but your treatment of a city lord has made the lord of Tianlong City startled. Some time ago, my Flame Mercenaries managed to obtain a Class 5 magical beast, but a mysterious assailant snuck in and stole it one night. That assailant also killed a senior figure of my Flame Mercenaries, unfortunately. This mysterious assailant was found out to be the city lord, Yunli. Jian Qin stated calmly. Cat Ada was silent for a moment before saying, Jian Qin, even if what you say is true, he is still the lord of Wake City and an official of the Blue Wind Kingdom. You cannot treat him in such a manner. Even if there is a crime, you should have let the Blue Wind Kingdom deal with him. Why not release him for now? Jian Qin shook his head without hesitation. Cat Ada, I know that you come from Yunli. But I have made my decision and no one will be able to change my mind. It would be best for you to return. Jian Qin, have you thought about the consequences of your actions if you do this? Cat Ada spoke. What consequences? I care not for them. I, however, am resolute on executing him. Jian Qin replied. Seeing how Jian Qin was still unperturbed about the matter, Cat Ada let out a sigh in his mind. This expression of Jian Qin meant that there would be no point in trying to waste words and energy to convince him. Yunlong strode forward at this moment. Flame Mercenaries, release the city lord immediately. If not, then you won't like the future consequences in store. Yunlong did not bother to negotiate with Jian Qin nor be as gentle as Cat Ada was. Although he knew that there were 4 Earth Saint Masters here, he did not have any fear for them at all. With the Tianlong City supporting and championing him as a representative of the Blue Wind Kingdom, people as trifling as a mercenary group was thus far beneath his notice. Yunlong's words had caused Jian Qin to knit his eyebrows together in irritation. Smiling coldly, Jian Qin said, What was that? It looks like I'll just have to see if my Flame Mercenaries will be able to handle these consequences then. Yunlong snorted, If you wish to die, then don't blame me. Allow me to experience the might of your Flame Mercenaries. With that, Yunlong materialized a bright silver sword in his hand as he sent a beam of white light toward Jian Qin. He then transformed into a blurry shadow that shot toward Jian Qin as well. Seeing the white light, Jian Qin was slightly surprised. So he is an Earth Saint Master with Radiant Saint Force. But what good is your Radiant Saint Force? Allow me to see what you got. After Jian Qin spoke, Ming Dong piped up and transformed into a bright ray of azure light that zoomed toward Yunlong. Bang! When the milky white light of the Radiant Saint Force came into contact with the azure light of the Wind Saint Force, an explosive boom could be heard as ripples of energy surged out like water into the surrounding area. The marbled ground began to fracture once more into a series of spiderweb-like cracks. A single strike later, Ming Dong could be seen standing without a change in expression. On the other hand, Tianlong had been sent staggering back several feet with shock and disbelief on his face as he stared at Ming Dong. "You've reached the 6th cycle of being an Earth Saint Master." Tianlong cried out in disbelief. His words caused Cat Ada and Katafei to feel shocked as well. A 6th cycle Earth Saint Master was a paramount existence for all Earth Saint Masters. All they needed was a single step to become a Heaven Saint Master. Such an individual like this was strong enough to be able to fight Cat Ada, Katafei, and Tianlong to a standstill without a problem. What? A 6th cycle Earth Saint Master? I'm impossible. Tianlong was dumbfounded. Compared to a 6th cycle Earth Saint Master, a 2nd cycle Earth Saint Master was completely insignificant. Laughing, Ming Dong replied, "And yet you tried to say that our flame mercenaries would be unable to handle the consequences with your strength. Humph, how haughty and arrogant of you." Tianlong's face turned pale white to pale green in an unchanging flow of color. Earlier, he had underestimated the flame mercenaries. He never would have entertained the thought that the flame mercenaries would actually have a 6th cycle Earth Saint Master. Chapter 554, Exit. Standing awkwardly in the courtyard, Tianlong and Cat Ada were now stuck in a rather difficult situation. The strength of the flame mercenaries had been beyond their expectations. If they were to use force now, then their side would be hurt the most. At the same time, if they were to retreat, it would be quite shameful and would serve as a slap to their faces. With a calm voice, Jian Chen turned to speak to Cat Ada. "Cat Ada, you should turn back. This matter with Lord Yunli is something you should not interfere with. My flame mercenaries will make no compromises on this matter." Jian Chen was not at all close with Cat Ada. However, since they had once fought shoulder to shoulder 2 years ago during the beast invasion wave in Wake City, Jian Chen did not wish to make things too difficult for him, so he had spoke with a softer voice. Cat Ada sighed and gave a complicated stare to Jian Chen. "Very well then. Jian Chen, if you are so determined to choose this path, then you leave us with no choice. We'll leave this for today." With that, Cat Ada pulled the still ashen-faced Tianlong away. They got onto their magical beast mounts, and lead the group of 500 soldiers back to Tianlong City. Still kneeling on the ground, Yunli's face was despondent and his eyes reflected his despair as he watched Cat Ada and the other two ride away. Cat Ada, Katafei, and Tianlong had led 500 soldiers from Tianlong City to Wake City in order to suppress the flame mercenaries. In the end, it was the flame mercenaries that had done the suppressing. The mercenaries had forced the group away without achieving their goals. News of this spread across Wake City like fire and caused many of the civilians to begin to re-evaluate the flame mercenaries. Without rest, the group from Tianlong City rushed back on their mounts straight to the city lord's mansion in order to report what had happened. Their story of what happened in Wake City was recounted for the Lord to hear. The important parts, such as there being 4 Earth Saint Masters with one of them being a 6th cycle Earth Saint Master and the Flame Mercenaries, were particularly stressed. The Lord of Tianlong City grew grim after hearing that. For Earth Saint Masters with one at the pinnacle was an extremely important matter that even the Lord had to regard with all due importance. How strange that there is such an unknown mercenary group with such a powerful amount of strength. Were you able to find out the background of these people or what power supports them? The Lord asked with concern. The three shook their heads before Cat Ada said, "My lord, my brother and I once met the captain of the Flame Mercenaries 2 years ago. At that time, he was only a great Saint Master, but even then, his fighting strength was simply enough to astound the both of us. When Wake City was in a crisis with the magical beast wave, 3 Class 5 magical beasts came. Shockingly, the 3 of them were completely killed by the captain. And one of the Class 5 magical beast was the green-scaled ape." Katada's words were so shocking that even the Lord was unable to stop himself from bolting straight up from his chair. Shocked, he questioned, "What was that?" The captain of the Flame Mercenaries was able to kill 3 Class 5 magical beasts as a great Saint Master? Are you sure this is true? Are you lying to me? It is completely true. My brother and I were there to witness it. My lord, the captain of the Flame Mercenaries isn't a simple person. He cannot be belittled. Even now, he somehow managed to find and bring 4 Earth Saint Masters into his mercenary group. This is already enough to paint him as a very unique person. Cat Ada replied in a serious manner. Thinking back to how Jian Chen had killed those 3 Class 5 magical beasts, Cat Ada felt some lingering surprise reappear. Since when did such a genius of this aptitude appear within our Blue Wind Kingdom? How strong is the captain of the Flame Mercenaries now? The Lord asked with a grim expression. I know not. I wasn't even able to see his strength. Cat Ada replied. The eyes of the Lord slid to the other 2 individuals. Were either of you 2 able to see his strength? Tianlong and Citywide shook their heads. The Lord's eyebrows furrowed together as he hummed in thought. He most presumably used some sort of way to hide his strength. From what I gather from you, the captain is a rather mysterious character. I'd like to meet this person and see just what type of person this captain really is. Very well, you may leave first. This should bear no matter with you anymore. A week passed by in Wake City. During these 7 days, nothing out of the ordinary that happened after Cat Ada, Citywide, and Tianlong had visited. Therefore, Jian Chen and his group had lived for a period of peace. The prestige of the Flame Mercenaries had constantly grown throughout Wake City by the words that came from the mouths of the civilians. Practically everyone within 1,000 miles knew about the Flame Mercenaries, which helped give rise to their reputation in the Blue Wind Kingdom. Within the courtyards of the Kai family, a half-meter-tall scaffold could be seen. The haggard and disheveled figure of Yunli could be seen kneeling over the scaffold. Beside him was a strong-looking man with a huge blade towering over him. Today was the day Yunli's execution. The entirety of the Flame Mercenaries had gathered here, and even more curious passers-by were standing around to point at Yunli and gossip. Yunli displayed a face that was sallow and despondent. His eyes were completely devoid of life, and his hair was so disheveled that he looked more like a beggar than his known image as the high and lofty lord of a city. His saint weapon had long since been destroyed by Jian Chen personally, but his life had been kept intact. As of now, he had already degenerated to a cripple that could not fight. All of the precious saint force he had spent years cultivating had been ruined without a chance of returning, and now even escape was impossible. Ladies and gentlemen, today I, Kai Er, will declare the sins that Yunli is guilty of. Kai Er began to recount the tales of Yunli's crimes with the Flame Mercenaries for everyone to hear once more. Everyone had already heard the story in clear detail, so Kai Er was merely just saying this as a formality without trying to invoke the reactions of the audience. Having finished speaking Yunli's crimes, Kai Er knew that the time was nigh. He said in a loud voice. And now is the time. Let the blade fall. At his order, the man holding the cleaver brought his hand straight up into the air. In front of the thousands of eyes of Wake City, he slashed off the head of Yunli with a splurt of blood flying from his detached neck. As if offering a sacrifice, the blood of Yunli splattered on the memorial tablet of Duo Kang. With Yunli's death, Duo Kang's revenge had been absolved as well. However, there was still a feeling of mourning in everyone's hearts. No one was happy. Even though Duo Kang's revenge had been fulfilled, Duo Kang would never return to them. Thus, they would never see him again. Yunli's death had given rise to talk throughout Wake City for only a moment before dying back down. Although Wake City was now without a lord, the business and everyday life was completely unaffected. It continued as usual. Commander Duo Li was now in charge, and had rarely been seen in the city. Ever since Cat Ada and the others left Wake City, he knew in his heart that even Tianlong City was mindful of the Flame Mercenaries. Hence, he had never bothered to ask about the matters regarding the Flame Mercenaries. The day after, the members of the Flame Mercenaries followed Kai Er and the other 3 into the magical Beast Mountain range as per Jian Chen's instructions. Everyone left the Kai family's compound, and only a few servants and artisans were left behind to hurriedly repair the place. Jian Chen had sent Yun Zheng and Seniorin with the Flame Mercenaries to protect them while they were training in the magical Beast Mountain range. In the case that someone's life was in danger, they would intervene. These men were after all the most loyal of mercenaries, and Jian Shen had no wish to see them come into any danger during their training. With the strength of the flame mercenaries revealed, if some Earth Saint Master came to fight with them, Yunzheng and Seniorin would be enough to fight them off or bide time for Jian Shen to arrive. While the flame mercenaries were off training in the magical beast mountain range, Jian Shen and the others left Wake City as well on top of their Class 3 magical beast mounts. The dark-skinned but straightforward Tai Ta sat on top of his newly confiscated mount. Weighing on his mind was the events of yesterday's execution of the Lord Yunli. Having only just begun his journey on the Tianyuan continent, Tai Ta had never yet experienced the rules of survival that the Tianyuan continent followed. Although he had killed plenty of magical beasts, this was the very first time he'd seen a person die. Yesterday's sight remained a heavy shock in his mind to the point where he was still perturbed. Jian Shen understood what Tai Ta was feeling and went to comfort him. Tai Ta, the Tian Tuan continent is a world where the weak are the food for the strong. The future will remain like this in almost a daily experience. Wait until you have the strength and you'll learn to adapt. The Tianyuan continent is a cruel place. Tai Ta muttered. Jian Shen laughed. Let's go to Fengyang City. You'll learn plenty over there perhaps. Chapter 555, revealing the strength of the white tiger cub on the way. Jian Shen and the group continued to laugh and chat in peace as they made their way to Fengyang City. They were traveling rather slow. Jian Shen and Ming Dong decided to explain the situation of the Tianyuan continent to Tai Ta. Yu would sometimes interject a word or two of her own, for the sake of helping Tai Ta adjust. As the princess of a kingdom, Yu rarely traveled the continent. However, her knowledge was rather vast, and she was more than aware of the rules surrounding the continent and what type of world she lived in. At that moment, Jian Shen suddenly felt an abnormal sensation. The white tiger cub that had been asleep against to his chest finally woke up. Slowly opening its eyes, the tiger cub shook its head from side to side to observe the surrounding area with curiosity. Seeing that the tiger cub was finally awake, Jian Shen couldn't help but smile and rub at the cub's scraggly and furry head. You've finally woken up, you hungry rascal. Moreover, like it understood what Jian Shen was saying, the cub let out a growl of discontent as if protesting Jian Shen's description of it. Leaping gracefully onto Jian Shen's shoulder, the cub fondly licked at Jian Shen's cheek. Jian Shen, where did you get this little cub? I never really noticed it when it was asleep. Now that it's awake, I can see that it's pretty cute. Ming Dong laughed as he asked. He had indeed noticed the cub before, but he had never paid it any attention until now. Back in Mercenary City, I was able to come across this cub in a nearby mountain. Jian Shen smiled without divulging the actual identity of the cub. The less they knew about the cub, the better. Then, the cub leaped down from Jian Shen's shoulders onto the saddle they were riding on. Sniffing incessantly at the hand that carried the space ring, the cub looked up at Jian Shen with a pleading stare. Knowing just what the tiger cub wanted, Jian Shen couldn't help but force out a laugh. You hungry rascal. You have already ate everything, there's nothing left. After such a long period of time, the heavenly resources that the Spirit Ape King had given him had run out. As of right now, there was nothing left in Jian Shen's space ring. The intelligent tiger cub understood what Jian Shen said. The bright glint in the tiger cub's eyes began to dim, and its energetic expression became depressed. Seeing the tiger cub in such a state, Jian Shen grimaced. Holding the cub tightly to comfort it, he said, wait until we get to a nearby city. I'll buy you some heavenly resources to eat. Regaining some spirit in its eyes, the cub gave two growling sounds in response as if ensuring that Jian Shen would deliver his promise. What Jian Shen casually said caused everyone to do a double take. What? Did I hear you right, Jian Shen? You're going to buy heavenly resources for this little thing? Heavens, that can't be true. Ming Dong looked incredulous at Jian Shen, completely unconvinced at what he had heard. Smiling, Jian Shen replied, this little one enjoys eating heavenly resources, and will eat plenty of it at a time. That can't be right, Jian Shen. Why you You're actually feeding extremely pricey heavenly resources to this little thing? Ow. Dear heavens, even if you have a lot of money, don't go throwing it around. Ming Dong clutched at his head in pain as if experiencing the pains of Jian Chen's thrifty manner with his money for him. Seeing the reaction on Ming Dong's face, Jian Chen could only laugh, but he gave no explanation. The cub understood that Ming Dong was indirectly insulting him, so it leaped onto Jian Chen's head. Lifting its cute head high into the air, it stared down at Ming Dong. It gave a discontent growl as if it was a king overlooking his subjects. Yo you little thing, are you looking down on me? Ming Dong was practically on the verge of spitting out blood from his anger because of the fact that a little animal, that wasn't even half a meter long, was treating him as a lower life form. When the normally silent De Feng saw how the tiger cub reacted, an astounded light appeared in his eyes. What intelligence! This tiger isn't a regular one. Yu was amused by the antics of the cub and smiled warmly at it with undisguised love and affection. What an adorable little cub. It looks like it can understand us. Jianchen, may I hold it? As she spoke, Yu was reaching out to hug the cub. Immediately leaping down from Jianchen's head and into his robes, the cub stared vigilantly at Yu. Aside from Jianchen, it would not allow any other person to touch it. As an ancient race of a tiger beast, it was naturally proud and unyielding. Jian Chen. Yu pleaded with Jian Chen. As a female, she loved seeing such a cute animal. Not only was it cute, but it was highly intelligent. Thus, Yu was attracted by its adorable antics. Forcing a smile, Jian Chen replied, I don't have any choice. I won't try and force the cub to do something it doesn't want to. AI, forget it. If I can't hug it, then I'll just watch it from here. Yu responded with a crestfallen face. Roar. Suddenly, the tremendous growl of a beast could be heard as a giant black bear came flying toward Jian Chen and the group. Now that everyone's attention was on the black bear, De Feng emotionlessly said, It's only a class 4 magical beast. Let me take care of it. Before De Feng could even finish speaking, the tiger cub had managed to let out an excited yelp, and flew from Jian Chen's robes as a bolt of white lightning in the direction of the black bear. Without stopping the cub, Jian Chen laughed, let the little cub take care of the class 4 magical beast. As of now, the tiger cub was also at the class 4 magical beast level. Jian Chen himself wished to see just how strong the cub was. Since cub was one of the ancient winged tiger gods, Jian Chen was not concerned for its safety. Staring wide-eyed at the distant tiger cub, Ming Dong cried out, Dear heavens, how is it so fast? Its speed is almost on par with my own. Jian Chen, where did you find this cub? Shocked, Ming Dong could only watch the tremendous speed of the cub in shock. De Feng and Yu were equally shocked at the cub with utter disbelief on their faces. Don't underestimate the cub. This tiger cub may be small, but it has the strength of a class 4 magical beast as well. However, I can't tell you where I got this cub. Jian Chen chuckled as he stared at the speeding cub. Speeding off toward the black bear with its tiny body, the cub was able to reach a curiously fast velocity. From afar, the cub looked like a straight white line with a speed that made its body hard to see. When the opposing black bear saw the cub charge at it with no regards for itself, the bear looked as if its own dignity was being challenged. Growing even angrier, the bear opened its large jaw wide to let out an animalistic roar. Gathering its speed, it charged mercilessly toward the white tiger cub in an attempt to devour it whole. Suddenly, a pair of wings unfolded from the back of the small cub. With a single shake of its wings, a bright white blade of wind burst forth, and it shot toward the black bear. The wind blade was exceedingly fast, far quicker than what the black bear could react against. Finally spearing through the head of the black bear, it bisected the entire body in half without resistance. Without losing any speed, the blade of wind continued off into the distance. It finally disappeared into the bushels of grass, out of sight. The black bear had been cut in two without even having time to let out a roar before its death. Stopping by the mountainous body of the black bear, the tiger cub let out a content purr and strutted around its body with its short stubby paws as if congratulating itself on flawlessly killing such a large black bear. By now, Jian Shen and the rest of the group had arrived on the backs of their Class 3 magical beast mounts. However, after they looked at the bisected corpse of the black bear, they now scanned the tiger cub with a new light. Not a single one of them would underestimate the cub now. If a Class 4 magical beast was killed with such ease, that meant the cub was at the very least equivalent to an Earth Saint Master in strength. Leaping up into the air, the cub began to purr excitedly on Jian Chen's shoulder as if extremely proud of its own achievement. Letting out a sigh, Jian Chen recollected himself. Watching the tiger cub kill a Class 4 magical beast so easily had really astounded him. The tiger cub had never been in a battle before, so even though it had its strength boosted to the Class 4 magical beast level with heavenly resources, it was still in its adolescent phase. It was not quite yet fully grown. If a child possessed such a tremendous amount of power like this, its battle strength would be ridiculously terrifying when it fully matured as an adult. Chapter 556. Arriving at Fengyang City, the amount of power that the small tiger cub had revealed was simply astounding. Ming Dong, De Gufeng, and Yu could only stare dumbfounded at the cub. Not a single one of them had expected to see a tiger, roughly the size of a small cat, contain so much power. Enough power that it was able to kill a Class 4 magical beast as easily as blowing off dust. A sight like this was simply too much to take in, so everyone found it rather hard to believe. Jian Chen. TTH, this tiger cub, why is it so strong? Ming Dong's eyes were glued to the corpse of the black bear as he stuttered. Jian Chen laughed, I've told you before. Don't underestimate the little cub, its strength is far beyond what you can imagine. Staring at the little cub with eyes that contained a little fear, but a renewed amount of adoration. Yu said, how strange to see it be so strong. If I didn't see it for myself, I would never have believed that a cub this small would be able to easily kill a Class 4 magical beast. Jian Chen, what's its name, and what does it normally like to eat? Taking the cub from his shoulder and hugging it to his chest, Jian Chen leisurely scratched at its head. The tiger cub did not resist Jian Chen's actions, and instead closed its eyes bliss, quietly enjoying the sensations. I don't know what its name is either. I've always called it the little white tiger. What's its favorite food? It likes to eat any heavenly resources. It also likes roast meat as well. Jian Chen chuckled. The princess seemed as if she was planning to use food to get the cub to like her. Heavenly resources and roasted meat, wait until we get to the city, I'll find some there. The princess eagerly replied. She began to anxiously await their arrival at the city. Then. If the cub doesn't have a name, why not give it one? Constantly calling it tiger cub or little white tiger can be tiring to hear. Yu stared expectantly at Jian Chen. Jian Chen had felt that this was a rather reasonable suggestion and nodded. Very well then, but what name shall I give it? Yu was quiet for a moment. The cub has a pair of wings on its back, that much cannot be ignored. Even with its small body, it is extremely brave like a god. Yes, we should give it a name like that. Yu's eyes sparkled, I have it. We should call him the Winged Tiger God. It is not only a powerful name, but it fits the tiger's full might. If it can kill a Class 4 magical beast with ease, then being a tiger god would be apartment. Jian Chen couldn't help but feel startled at the name Yu picked. On a whim, she had managed to guess the actual name of the race of the tiger. This was the identity of the tiger. Even if very few people knew the backstory of the Winged Tiger God, there would most likely be trouble in the case that news of one made its way to one of the hidden experts in the world. No, I refuse. That name isn't good to hear, let's change it. Jian Chen hurriedly shot down Yu's suggestion. No matter what, the name the Winged Tiger God could definitely not be used. Right now, Jian Chen was doing his best to hide the identity of the tiger cub. He was afraid that if news were to reach the Gilligan clan, then things would be disastrous. Although Yu had only given this name on a single whim, this name was no ordinary name. It determined whether a life would be saved or destroyed. I thought the name was pleasant to the ears, why not? Yu Yu was confused about Jianshen's adamant refusal. It was only a name, there was no need to react as Jianshen did. It's not a nice name. Let me choose, we should call it Xiaobai from now on. Jianshen hurriedly replied. Unable to laugh nor cry, Yu Yu stared at Jianshen. Xiaobai. That name is far too simple. It doesn't show how strong the cub is at all. It sounds even worse than mine. I don't feel that it's a bad name. The cub has fur as white as snow and is small. Xiaobai suits it rather well. Jianshen looked at the cub in his robes and asked, from now on I'll be calling you Xiaobai, do you like that name? Mroror, the cub nodded its head in excitement and stamped its short forepaws against Jianshen's chest repeatedly as if it favored the name. Somewhat satisfied, Jianshen glanced at Yu Yu. Look, Xiaobai likes that name. The road forward was long and slow. They would often spend their time traveling without seeing anyone else, but sometimes, several groups of merchants or mercenaries crossed their path. However, Jianshen and the group continued on their mounts without stopping. They headed to Fengyang City chatting and laughing the entire way. Although the group was short Yunzheng and Seniorin, it did not impact them much. Jianshen had wanted the flame mercenaries to leave Wake City for the magical beast mountain range, so he had the two protect them in secret. Otherwise, he would never feel at ease. The group was currently holding on to the human tier and earth tier battle skills. Furthermore, Kai Air was still holding on to the Golden Fur Tiger King's cub to raise with the other three. In the past, it was because of the Golden Fur Tiger King that the flame mercenaries were almost wiped out. So for the past few days before his departure, Jianshen had been vexed on whether to execute the beast or not. He had planned on it at first, but when he thought back to how the cub was like a very young child that did not know the ways of the world, especially during the time when the flame mercenaries were killed, he reluctantly decided to spare it. Although some blame still had to be assigned to the greed of the group. If the group had not seeked out the cub, then they would not have incurred the wrath of its mother and fallen to such a disastrous position. The senior figure Duo Kong had been killed because of the Golden Fur Tiger King's cub as well. However, the flame mercenaries had exhausted far too much sweat and blood for it now. If he were to execute the beast, then the flame mercenaries' efforts would have amounted to nothing. Therefore, Jianshen gave it even more thought and decided that Kai Air would be given the cub to tame. It would also serve as compensation and proof that their efforts were not in vain. Fengyang City was roughly 1,500 kilometers away from Wake City, and with Jianshen's group's slow speed, it would take an entire day and a half to reach the city. Fengyang City was a second-class city and was consequently far more accomplished and fancy-looking than Wake City by far. As they approached, large groups of travelers could be seen on the main roads walking to and fro. As far as the eye could see, merchants and mercenaries could be seen sharing the roads. At the gates, several soldiers could be seen standing in a line. They were there to make sure every single merchant paid an entrance toll before entry. After paying that entrance toll, entry to the city would be given without trouble. Otherwise, there would be a forceful inspection of the goods being brought in. Slowly, Jianshen and his group drew closer and closer to Fengyang City. Unlike Wake City, Fengyang City would rarely see Class 3 magical beast mounts instead of never. Some of the stronger mercenaries would even use those mounts, so not much attention was given to Jianshen's group. The soldiers of Fengyang City were the type who loved to bully, but couldn't stand to be bullied in return. Knowing that anyone who rode such beasts would not be of ordinary stature, the soldiers didn't dare trouble them. Hence, Jianshen's group was easily able to enter the city without any hindrance. Entering the city, Jianshen looked around the place with observing eyes. In his mind, the visions of the past events that happened in this city appeared in his mind like an animation. 2 years had already passed since his last visit, but Jianshen was still able to remember the events that happened. In the past, he had brought 2 Class 5 magical beast carcasses into the auction house, causing a stir. The greedy hearts of the families and clans caused them to try to steal the carcasses from him. It was only after a valiant effort that he was able to escape, but an Earth Saint Master had managed to chase after him and force him down a cliff. Arriving at a rather decent inn within the city, Jian Shen had everyone book a room and tidy up their affairs. After all that was done, he turned to Dugufeng. Dugufeng, there is a heavenly phoenix auction house within this city. Take these 2 Class 5 monster cores and auction them off. Remember not to reveal your strength. However you wish to do it is up to you. Jian Shen, you're not exactly short on money, why are you auctioning off 2 Class 5 monster cores? Ming Dong asked in confusion. Even Dugufeng and you were rather confused by the actions of Jian Shen. Jian Shen gave a secretive smile. I have my reasons for what I do. Don't ask for now, it'll become apparent to you soon enough. Very well, I know what to do. Dugufeng replied as he took the 2 monster cores from Jian Shen. One more thing. Don't let the auctioneers learn of our identities. I know you are capable of this. It shouldn't be difficult for you at all. Jian Shen complimented. Dugufeng gave a nod of his head, understood. With that, Dugufeng left the inn with the monster cores. After Dugufeng left, Jian Shen decided not to stay in their rooms. Let's go eat something. Then we'll go on a walk to see if there are any heavenly resources available. Chapter 557. Conflict. Jian Shen and the others walked downstairs. The inn was serving plenty of local delicacies, so they decided to sit down at a table to eat. Although there were no heavenly resources for the tiger cub to eat, the smell of the food was extremely delectable. Seated right next to Jian Shen, the tiger devoured a platter of roasted meat, much to the curiosity of everyone else around them. Xiao Bai, come eat this. It's delicious. The delicate and jade-like hand of Yu lifted a piece of roasted meat toward the cub as if to coax it. Her limpid eyes stared unwaveringly at the cub with an expression of love that was all too noticeable. The cub didn't even bother to look up as it continued to eat the platter of food in front of him with gusto. The rate at which the food was devoured was almost as if the tiger cub had been starved for several days. With the cub completely ignoring her, the princess let out a depressed sigh. She propped her chin on her left hand as she stared at the hungry tiger with worry. Jian Shen, just what in the world did you do to capture Xiao Bai's heart? Why is it so attached to you while it ignores me completely? What do I have to do in order to get Xiao Bai to accept me? Yu pleaded with Jian Shen. Shaking his head with a small smile, Jian Shen replied, I really don't know either. However, if you like Xiao Bai so much, then I can only assume that after some time, Xiao Bai will slowly come to accept you. By now, the cub had completely finished the platter. With eyes that were as equally as pitiful as Yu's eyes, the cub stared at Jian Shen as if it wanted more. Laughing, Jian Shen scratched at the cub's head gently. Waiter, another platter of 5 spice roast meat. Make it a big platter. Got it. Came the enthusiastic response of the waiter, who quickly reappeared with another platter of meat for the cub. With the aroma of the scent being so deliciously tempting, the tiger cub could resist no longer and began to eat the meat. Waiter, prepare your biggest private room. The second master of the Haiming clan will be dining with the third lady from the Yun family. Suddenly, a resonating cry could be heard from outside the inn as a single middle-aged man came striding in with a voice that demanded respect. Yes. I will prepare a room right away. The Haiming clan and the Yun family were both very well-known names in Fengyang City, so the waiter immediately dropped his other tasks and went off to prepare a room. After the waiter retreated, the soldier turned around. He gave a smile to the people outside the door. Second lord, third lady, if you would please. A 20-something-year-old male with a haughty face could be seen walking in. He was dressed in white robes to give off a handsome look. His eyes swept across the inn with an expression that hinted everyone else was beneath him. Right by his side was a pink skirt-wearing young woman. Refined and quiet, her age was slightly younger than him, around 18, but she was exceedingly beautiful. With skin as white as cotton, her jet-black eyes would sometimes flash with light of intelligence. Yun Lian, let us head upstairs. The handsome man beckoned to the young woman with a gentle voice. His eyes hid nothing but admiration for the woman. Giving a gentle word of agreement, the woman prepared to follow the man upstairs. Within her bright and intelligent eyes, a nearly imperceivable glint of boredom and helplessness could be seen. As the group walked by Jian Chen's table, the sight of the tiger cub eating the roasted meat on the table had suddenly caught the young woman's eye. She couldn't help but exclaim, "What an adorable little animal." The surprised cry of the woman caused the man she was with to suddenly turn around. Looking at the tiger cub in question, he smiled, "This little thing is indeed quite cute. Yun Lian, it'll be your birthday in 3 days. Why don't I gift you this pet as your birthday present? Would you like that?" The man was exceedingly arrogant. Without even consulting the owner for negotiations, the man had already assumed that the pet was his own personal property. In his eyes, everyone that was eating within the common area of the inn were men with no status. Only those who ordered their own personal rooms were of status. So taking a little pet from these people would be an easy task. He could simply drop a few purple coins for them to enjoy and everyone would be happy. The words of this youth made Jian Chen's group narrow their eyes. "Xiao Bai belongs to us. We did not even consent. Why do you think we would give him to you?" Tai Ta sharply responded. The way this youth talked made Tai Ta feel quite unforgiving toward him. Tai Ta's words caused the young man's face to darken as the glint in his eyes grew nefarious. A smile that didn't quite reach his eyes could be seen on his face. "I can see that this little pet of yours is worth some money. It seems to happen that I am a young man with plenty of wealth. Are you afraid that I won't pay you? Speak your price and we can be on our way." As he spoke, the young man's eyes quickly swept over the people at the table with eyes full of disdain. Although the clothes they wore weren't that bad, they just weren't even of any defensive value, which meant they were no one of importance. However, the young man's eyes flew wide open when they landed upon Yu Yu. Dazed at the penultimate beauty that was Yu Yu, he did not speak for a long while. Beautiful. Truly too beautiful. She was a beauty that would leave any male breathless where he stood. He could swear that since his birth, he had never seen a single woman as beautiful as she was. Even the princess of the Blue Wind Kingdom didn't possess a beauty as great as hers. The sudden loss of composure from the man had caught the attention of the young woman next to him. She discovered Yu Yu's existence at that point as well. When she saw the fairy-like beauty of Yu Yu's face, she too was stunned. However, there was some envy aside from her shock. She took pride in being the absolute beauty of Fengyang City. Even in the entire Blue Wind Kingdom, there were very few women that could outrank her in beauty. With the arrival of Princess Yu Yu, no matter how much faith she had in herself, she would definitely have to step down. The light in her eyes flashed brilliantly and clearly as if they could see through the darkness within a person. Carefully studying the group, she began to observe their calm nature before growing pensive. Quickly realizing where he was, the man didn't even notice the look on the woman with him. He continued to stare at Yu Yu. Feigning to be a man of honor, he cupped his hands in salute. "This one is the second master of the Haiming clan in Fengyang City. If I might ask for the name of this beautiful lady." "Oh, it is truly a disgrace for such a beautiful woman to be sitting in such an area to eat. This one has already ordered a private room upstairs with plenty of delicious and exotic food. If this beautiful lady might feel so inclined to do me the honor, please come upstairs with us to wine and dine." Before Jian Chen could even speak, Ming Dong responded. Slamming his hand on the table with anger, he growled, "You're being gutsy, kid. You're asking for trouble by trying to flirt with the fiancé of my brother here." Hearing herself referred to as Jian Chen's fiancé, Yu Yu couldn't help but blush and feel bashful. When her eyes moved to Jian Chen and saw that he was as calm as ever, her heart couldn't help but feel disappointed. Ming Dong's words had caused the entire inn to grow silent. Even a crow or peacock would refuse to make a sound in this tense environment. Pausing mid-speech in their conversations, every diner in the inn stared at the table where Ming Dong was. Many of them sighed to themselves when they realized the situation. Within Fengyang City, no one could handle the consequences of fighting the Haiming clan. The young man's face hardened with fury. As the second master of the Haiming clan, his status was majestically high. Standing within this inn and being scolded by such an insignificant person was an unbearable shame to him. Men! Come and take away this sharp-tongued fool. Then carve out his tongue. The man barked out for his soldiers to hear. Yes, second master. Several doughty guards spoke in quick succession before moving to grab Ming Dong. Come and die then. Ming Dong's eyes coldly flashed. His right hand shot forth with a burst of Saint force. It flew forward and struck the nearby soldiers, causing them to fly away with blood coming from their mouths. Ming Dong's action stunned the entire inn into silence. Their opinion of Ming Dong drastically changed after this display, and no one dared to belittle him now. The young man was wide-eyed at this display of strength as well. He didn't think that the strong guards he brought with him would be so easily thrown back. A strength like that was quite unbelievable. The man had not been cowed just yet. Barking at Ming Dong, he yelled, "You dare strike at my Haiming clan? Aren't you the one asking for trouble?" Sneering, Ming Dong replied, "You're the one seeking trouble. Go ahead and get lost." Ming Dong pulled at the robes of the man and threw him mercilessly through the window and into the streets. Ming Dong's strength had been so massive that the man tumbled across the ground with enough force to shatter the marble beneath him. With a miserable scream, the young man's face grew deathly pale, but he did not crawl up from his position. After being tossed by Ming Dong, his entire body had been broken in several places. The people in the streets quickly began to talk in a large hubbub as they pointed at the young man. When they realized just who the youth was, their mouths instantly snapped shut. They spoke no more. Despite this, some of them looked gleefully at the miserable state of the man. Under the stares of the crowd, the young man's anger reached a boiling point. Glaring angrily at Ming Dong, he growled beneath his breath, "Just you wait. I'll definitely remember this." The affairs that happened today would become an unwashable shame that he would never be rid of. This was the biggest humiliation that he had ever experienced within Fengyang City. Chapter 558, Draconix. Would Jian Chen and the others no longer felt in the mood to eat after such an event. Throwing down a purple coin, they left the inn. The woman stood still without a word as she stared at the retreating figures with a light that betrayed nothing of her thoughts. After Jian Chen's group left the inn, they began to stroll around Fengyang City. This was the very first time Tai Ta had ever been in such a luxurious-looking city. As they walked, his head swiveled back and forth. He took in all the sights while curiosity filled him. Not a single sound could be heard from his mouth, and in that moment, he was the epitome of a villager visiting the city for the first time ever. Plenty of people on the streets found themselves turning their heads to look at Yu Yu because of her stunning beauty. Plenty of surprised whispers could be heard, and many mercenaries made less than discreet eyes at her. There had been several young masters, who thought themselves to be quite handsome, that tried to come up and court Yu Yu. Each and every one of them had been kicked back by Ming Dong. In the end, Tai Ta couldn't handle it anymore and took it upon himself to protect the princess as well. Yu Yu had long since been immune to the gaze of the common populace, but with so many of them being so annoying, she gave up and bought a cloak from a nearby shop. It covered her face so that there would be fewer problems. Unbeknown to them, 4 hours had passed since the start of their saunter. They had attempted to buy heavenly resources from any store that would sell them. However, none of the rare ingredients sold by the stores they visited were over 100 years old. The very sparse few that were still not old enough to be of any assistance to the tiger cub. Their price tags had been overwhelming as well, so Jian Chen continued on empty-handed after visiting several stores. "Let us go to the free market then." Jian Chen made a proposal before heading in a certain direction with the tiger cub and the others. Casting an eye behind them, Ming Dong's eyebrows furrowed together with an impatient look. "Jian Chen, shouldn't we get rid of those annoying gnats behind us? Forget about them. If they want to follow us, we'll let them." Jian Chen replied without even looking back. At that moment, a drumming sound could be heard from the front as a group of red-robed men came striding through the city with a huge clamor. The scene looked like a wedding concession with the festive celebration, but the contents of their words caused everyone on the streets to feel stunned. "Good news, everyone. Our Heavenly Phoenix auction house will be auctioning off 2 Class 5 monster cores 7 days from now. The man leading the group was speaking through a giant, gold horn with a blast of sound that could be heard in all directions. What? The Heavenly Phoenix auction house has Class 5 monster cores to sell, is that true? Heavens, more have appeared. And there's 2 of them at the same time, did I hear that right? If the auction is going to be selling one of those, we must go and inform the Lord. The news shocked everyone. A Class 5 monster core was a very rare thing to come across anywhere other than a first-class city. With the second-class Fengyang city coming across 2 of them at once to sell, it was far too much to take in. 1 core was one thing, but 2 cores were another. Everyone had begun to react in varying manners to this bombshell of information. Some of the mercenaries and merchants began to buzz with words while the men with powerful backgrounds retreated to their respective families. They reported the matter to the head of their family. Jian Chen smiled when he heard the news. The Heavenly Phoenix auction house works quite fast. In such a short amount of time, they already created a huge uproar. Though, 2 Class 5 monster cores appearing out of nowhere should create such an attraction. The fact that there were 2 Class 5 monster cores being auctioned off by the Heavenly Phoenix auction house bore no influence on Jian Chen's group, hence, they continued to travel on their way to the free market. The free market of Fengyang City was exceedingly large. All sorts of peddlers selling all sorts of things could be found here. There were plenty of buildings constructed all over the overflowing streets, making it hard to walk from one place to another. Jian Chen and the rest continued to visit each and every store that sold heavenly ingredients and heavenly resources in order to find any heavenly resources that were at least 1,000 years old. After 2 hours of walking, they were still empty-handed. A heavenly resource over the age of 300 wasn't even found, let alone one 1,000 years old. Only a few stalks of 100-year-old ginseng were uncovered, but they had exorbitantly high prices. The more important thing was that a ginseng of that age would no longer serve any purpose to the Class 4 magical beast tiger cub, and would be the same as being fed some bok choy. Master, I've discovered some Draconix wood, that is one of the materials that can be used to forge the hilt of the azulate sword. Hurry and buy it. Suddenly, Ziying's voice could be heard in Jian Chen's mind. Jian Chen faltered for a moment as a smile overcame his face. Hurriedly he asked Ziying, where is it? As soon as he asked, a strange sensation flooded his mind. At this moment, there was a strange connection between his spirit and a peculiar but mysterious object that brought his eyes to a nearby building. Without hesitation, Jian Chen walked into the building at a brisk pace. Hey, Jian Chen. Where are you going? Wait for us. Ming Dong called out from behind before the other 3 ran after him. This was a store that specialized in selling wooden sculptures. Inside were plenty of precious wood carvings and other wooden arrangements of considerable value. Some of the more powerful families would sometimes come and buy some for their own homes. When they entered the store, a young shopkeeper was immediately visible with a welcoming smile on his face. My lords, welcome to the most exquisite wood carvings within Fengyang City. All of the items here are carved by the master sculptor Mu Chaixian, whose skill is among the best in the city. I guarantee my lord's satisfaction here with whatever the item. Ignoring the shopkeeper, Jian Chen's feet carried him straight to the 2nd floor. However, just before Jian Chen could enter it, the shopkeeper hurried to stop him with an apologetic but courteous smile. My lord, this one is truly sorry, but the 2nd floor is only accessible to those guests with a purple card. If my lord wishes to view our wares there, then please show me a purple card. With a twist of his hand, a purple card appeared in Jian Chen's right hand. Do I have the right to go up now? Seeing the purple card, the smile on the man's face rekindled. Hurriedly nodding, he said, Welcome my lord. Welcome. If I offended you with my actions earlier, please forgive me. Allow me to welcome you to the 2nd floor. On the 2nd floor, Jian Chen ignored all else and simply stared straight at a giant log seated in the very center of the room. The entire thing was a dark red with golden light running throughout it. With a diameter of 1/3 of a meter and a height of 1 meter, the block of wood looked as if it once used to be the trunk of a tree. With the tree trunk twisted and distorted in a strange pattern of grains, the sight of a dragon and phoenix could just barely be seen carved into it in a lifelike manner. Looking at the dragon and phoenix pattern on the wood, Jian Chen's eyes flashed with light. He could distinctly tell that the pattern contained the essence of the world that was particularly hard to fathom and extremely profound in nature. It was almost identical to a Saint-tier battle skill, and seemed to just contain every part of the world within its secrets. My lords, might I welcome you to our 1,000-hand workshop where we display the finest of sculptures and carvings. Is there something my lords find of interest? An elderly man approached them with a smile as he spoke in a friendly manner. Surveying the area with confusion, Ming Dong could only ask Jian Chen, what are you doing in a place like this? The sculptures here might be nice to look at, but you don't have any interest in stuff like this, do you? Completely disregarding Ming Dong's question, Jian Chen slowly walked to the dark red log of wood, and stared at the dragon and phoenix carving. Shopkeeper, where did you get this block of wood? The old man laughed. What an eye my lord has. This magical piece of wood is the treasure of our 1,000-hand workshop. It's rumored that it was taken from one of the wild zones of the Tianyuan continent, the Sea of Young Fire. It is there that this piece of wood was baptized by the strongest of flames and became as hard as steel. Flames cannot burn it, and steel cannot break it. This is truly a treasure among treasures. Just how much are you exaggerating? An item brought back from one of the wild zones of the continent would indeed be an item in great demand, but would one really end up in a second-class city? Do you take us to be 3-year-old children that are easy to bully? Ming Dong snorted. This rotten old man knows that my lords will not believe me. Even if you believe me or not, this piece of magical wood is truly worth what it is as a treasure. That cannot be changed. The elder laughed without being insulted. Jian Chen's eyes slowly moved away from the block of wood as he tried to restrain the surging emotions he felt within him. With a calm voice, he asked, how much for this wood? Name your price. Seeing that Jian Chen was interested, the shopkeeper's eyes lit up. Hurriedly, he said, what an eye my lord has, this old man greatly admires such an eye. Since this wood is quite unnatural as well as being the treasured jewel of this store, the price will be quite high. The shopkeeper didn't say a price and instead held up 3 fingers. With wide eyes, Ming Dong said, don't tell me you're selling it for 300 purple coins. That's a huge price for a single block of wood. The shopkeeper shook his head. My lords, if you take a look at this piece of wood, the naturally formed pattern on it is beyond what man can do. With that alone, a price of 300 purple coins is not enough to buy it. Then are you selling it for 3,000 purple coins? Tai Ta spoke with a look of disbelief on his face. The shopkeeper shook his head, incorrect, 30,000 purple coins. What? 30,000 purple coins? Ming Dong cried out. A price like that made him leap up into the air in shock. Swearing out loud, he spat, you might as well rob me of my money. A single block of wood costing 30,000 purple coins? 300 purple coins was already beyond what I was willing to spend. But this price? Who'd ever buy it? A smile appeared on Jian Chen's face. If this piece of wood is indeed that price, then shopkeeper, I would like to purchase it. From the mouth of Ziying, Jian Chen had learned that this Draconix wood was one of the materials used to forge the azulate swords. Materials like these were extremely rare in nature and priceless beyond all else. For something like this to be for 30,000 purple coins, Jian Chen only saw it as a delectable deal. Whether it was 30,000, 300,000, or 3 million purple coins, Jian Chen would purchase this without hesitation. The moment he knew an item was one of the materials for the azulate sword, he would buy it. Chapter 559, Prosperous Auction, 1. Realizing that Jian Chen was prepared to pay 30,000 purple coins to buy the piece of wood, the shopkeeper was sent into a daze. In the scope of Fengyang City, very few people could shell out such a sum for something like this. Anyone who could would never use it to purchase a piece of wood that would only serve as a piece of decoration in their homes. At the very least, this piece of wood had lain within the store for many years, and had attracted the eyes of just as many people. However, when they heard the price, every single person had been intimidated by it and retreated. 30,000 purple coins was not a small sum by any means. A sum like this could raise the status of an entire clan as well as their power by a tremendous amount. Using so much money to pay for a useless block of wood was of no use to those clans. In disbelief, the shopkeeper looked at Jian Chen before asking with a quavering voice, "My lord, do you really wish to purchase this block of wood? It costs 30,000 purple coins." The shopkeeper was afraid that Jian Chen had heard wrong and made sure that he stressed the price again. Taking out a purple card from his space ring, Jian Chen said, "Here is my payment. Take this. From now on, this block of wood is mine." The shopkeeper's eyes remained glued to the space ring Jian Chen had used to take the purple card from in wide-open shock. "SP space ring!" he cried out in shock. The light he saw Jian Chen from was completely different than before. A space ring was an extremely precious storage item that was far better than a space belt, and it was also far more rare than one. Only the strongest and most illustrious figures would have the right to wear an accessory like that. At least in Fengyang City, only a meager 4 people were able to wear a space ring. Each one of these people were extremely important and influential. The first was the lord of Fengyang City, and the other 3 were the lords of their own clans. Before, the shopkeeper had only thought Jian Chen to be a young master of the city with plenty of wealth to spare. When he saw the space ring on Jian Chen's finger, that thought had been thrown out the window. From this ring, the shopkeeper could guess that this was not a youth he had seen before. This youth held an identity that was far beyond what he could possibly imagine. A space ring was far more reliable way to establish one's identity than a purple card. A person who possessed a space ring was a person that could not be looked down on. In a single moment, the shopkeeper's treatment of these shoppers changed to an extremely respectful manner. Smiling wide, his face reflected the ideal shopkeeper's face when talking to a customer. The 30,000 purple coins were quickly traded to the shop. Handing the card back to Jian Chen, the old man smiled, "Esteemed lord, here is your card. This piece of wood is yours now." Receiving the purple card emotionlessly, Jian Chen took the block of wood and stored it in his space ring along with the card. "Jian Chen, you really bought a piece of wood for 30,000 purple coins." Tai Ta stared at him in shock. His heart felt as if it was about to collapse on itself. 30,000 purple coins was a tremendous amount of wealth, and Jian Chen had used it to purchase a block of wood. The materials he had for the azulate swords had increased by 1 more with the Draconix wood in hand. Knowing that he was 1 step closer to the swords, Jian Chen was elated. "This piece of wood is something I desperately need, its value to me is beyond what you could imagine." He smiled. Jian Chen hadn't bothered to hide the fact that the Draconix wood was beyond ordinary since it was as good as safe in his hands. There was no need to fear anyone that had their eyes on it now. "Esteemed lord, this old man recognizes that you are a knowledgeable person and you seem to know the history behind this piece of wood. I am quite curious of its nature now. Would it be possible for my lord to explain to this old man a thing or two about its uses? I would like to further my realm of knowledge." The man inquired with a pleading tone. Laughing, Jian Chen replied, "Shopkeeper, did you not say before that this piece of wood was retrieved from a wild zone? You already know then. What use is there to ask more?" "That. I, the shopkeeper sputtered. When he had said that the wood was from a mysterious place, it had been a fabrication he knew nothing of. It was only meant to raise the mystique and price of the wood. What he didn't expect was that he would meet someone more knowledgeable about it than him. With a hollow laugh, the man hurriedly changed the subject. "Esteemed lord, there are still many more excellent sculptures within our 1,000-hand workshop. Why not take a walk around and peruse them? Perhaps my lord will find something of interest." Humming, Jian Chen began to communicate with the azure and violet sword spirits. "Ziying, Qingsua, is there anything else of value here?" "Master, only the Draconix wood is of value. Neither of us thought that the Tianyuan continent would have it. Could they have brought it here?" Ziying thought. Now knowing that the Draconix wood was the only valuable object here, Jianchen couldn't help but feel disappointed. Losing all motivation to stay here any longer, Jianchen and the others left the store, much to the disappointment of the shopkeeper. Jianchen, I am fully aware that you wouldn't buy such an expensive piece of wood without reason. Just what in the world is different about this piece? I can't wrap my head around it at all. As soon as they left the store, Ming Dong immediately piped up with his question. This piece of wood is called the Draconix wood. I don't know its history, but it is an item with value beyond belief. To me, it is an indispensable item needed to forge a weapon. What? Forge a weapon? Ming Dong was flabbergasted. As if unclear, he asked again for clarification, Jianchen, what did you just say? Forge a weapon? With your strength, do you really need materials for a weapon? At this, Yu and Tai Ta looked curiously at Jianchen as well. Forging a weapon was extremely rare on the Tianyuan continent. As of now, I have no way of responding to that question in earnest. Let's not discuss this for now and continue on our stroll to see if we can find Xiao by any heavenly resources. One of the three strongest clans, the Haiming clan, sat in the south side of Fengyang city. As of that moment, the entire place was quite lively with noise. Within the luxuriously decorated rooms, a white-faced youth could be seen lying on top of a bed. His entire forehead was drenched in sweat, and his face was contorted in pain. A white-robed middle-aged man slowly withdrew his palm from the youth. With exhaustion, the man stared at the other middle-aged man who stood gravely nearby. Lord Haiming, the wounds of your second son are quite severe. With my capabilities as a Radiant Saint Master, I am unable to fully cure his wounds in a single attempt. I will require several attempts. This grave-faced man was in fact the head of the Haiming clan. The man nodded his head. Esteemed Master Jia Ku, please rest. After Jia Ku left, the man strode to the bed and grimly asked, Jenner, who did this to you? Father, you must take revenge for me. The youth began to recount the events that happened with even more details added to the fire like oil, so he shifted the blame completely onto Jianchen. Listening to his son, the head of the Haiming clan narrowed his eyes before sighing. The Heavenly Phoenix auction is currently selling 2 Class 5 monster cores. The auction has sent the entire city into an uproar. For now, let's set aside this issue until this matter with the monster cores has been fully resolved. Several experts have gathered in the city as of late. You'd best keep quiet for now and avoid trouble. Father, are we going to let that bastard get away with this so easily? I was humiliated in front of the eyes of many people. If our Haiming clan sits by the side and does nothing, then how will the people of Fengyang City see us? What face would we have to continue to call ourselves one of the 3 strongest clans of the city? The youth sputtered in indignation. That's enough. I will make the preparations, but now is not quite the time for it. Acting rashly will only create a new knot in the tree. Stay here and continue to recuperate. With that, the man left the room. Within a large courtyard in another part of the city, a red skirt-wearing woman sat next to a window with a troubled expression. Who would have known that the Heavenly Phoenix auction house would suddenly sell 2 Class 5 monster cores at this time? What a ruckus that'll create, what a battle it'll cause. The Yun family doesn't have time for this, but that only means it is a chance for my mother's blood debt to be fulfilled. The woman thought back to the spectacle that happened back at the inn. I wonder who those people were, she muttered. Even their personalities were out of the ordinary. They must be men from a major clan with high positions. Their clan must be very strong if they don't fear the Haiming clan. As she spoke, a sudden gleam appeared in her eyes without disappearing. After a long time, the woman finally whispered another line. Perhaps, if possible, I could borrow their strength to destroy the Yun family. Jianchen and the others continued to stroll around the city a while longer before finally returning to the inn they were staying at. They had traveled to many different streets and stores today. Aside from the Draconix wood, they had found nothing to show for their efforts. Not even a 500-year-old heavenly resource could be found in the city, let alone a 1,000-year-old one. That night, Jianchen sat on his bed in a meditational position. However, He was not using the energy from the monster cores to refine into chaotic force. He was instead trying to understand the energy of the world. Understanding this primal energy was the road one had to follow to become a saint ruler. There were no shortcuts for this path. It was only with full comprehension of the utmost degree would one be able to understand the mysteries of the world. Since the cub had no heavenly resources to digest, it did not fall into a deep sleep this night. Instead, it rolled around with a bored expression on the bed. Its sharp claws tore the blankets to shreds in its attempt to alleviate its boredom. The cub suddenly halted playing. Both of its eyes began to shine brightly toward the window like two candles in the dark room. Without a sound, the windows began to open before a single figure darted into the room. It landed silently on the ground. It let out a discontent growl. As if it had lost interest in the shadow, the tiger resumed rolling around on the bed. Chapter 560, Prosperous Auction, 2. At the same time the figure entered the room, Jianchen slowly opened his eyes. He was seated on the bed. Were there any problems? None, but plenty of people were trying to follow me. I was able to throw them off with ease, but not too long after each try, they managed to find me again. I would assume they are the local powers of the city with eyes all over the place. Unless I can alter my face and change my body, I won't be able to completely throw them off. The figure replied in a plain voice. It was De Gafeng. Yes, this situation was within my expectations. A Class 5 monster core is far too rare of an item to appear in such a city like this. Not attracting their eyes would be strange. Jianchen pondered. De Gafeng, for now, hide yourself and do not let them find you. Do not reveal your strength either, otherwise, it might hinder my plans. I understand. De Gafeng emotionlessly responded. Although he was confused by what this plan was, he did not voice his concerns. You may go, wait until the auction ends before convening with us. Jianchen commanded. With a faint nod, De Gafeng said nothing more, and disappeared into a black shadow out the window and without a sound. Waving his hand, Jianchen blew the window covers back into their closed position. News of the fact that the Heavenly Phoenix auction house was selling 2 Class 5 monster cores had quickly spread throughout Fengyang City like a torrent of rain on the roofs of every household. The very instant they heard that the Heavenly Phoenix auction house selling them, many of the more powerful families had sent out a flying-type magical beast to give reports to distant places. Within a mere 4 hours, everyone within a 1,000-mile circumference had heard the news. Class 5 monster cores appeared within first-class cities at a decent rate, but they were still considered a rare sight. Now that 2 of them had appeared in a second-class city, everyone who heard the news was rather taken aback by it. Not long later, every single person that was in charge of a local power came running over. They brought along their strongest experts as they rushed to Fengyang City. Despite there being time until the auction, everyone was impatient to get there as fast as possible. On the second day after the news was sent out, many strong individuals had already shown up in Fengyang City on their mounts in numbers of 100. When these people arrived in Fengyang City, the power holders of the city felt a considerable amount of pressure. The leaders of the 3 strongest clans had convened to form a collaborative might that would discourage anyone from trying to knock them out of their positions. Although it was very unlikely that something malicious would occur, this collaboration would let all of the foreign visitors know who the strongest were in the city and show that they were not to be trifled with. Following the arrival of these men, the Heavenly Phoenix auction house grew rather lively. There was someone practically every day who would come to inquire about the Class 5 monster cores. Some would ask to verify if it was true, while others came to ask just which individual had supplied them. No matter how highly the Heavenly Phoenix auction house safeguarded their secrets, the power of these foreign individuals was not to be belittled. After a good amount of work, they were able to uncover a shallow bit of information about who supplied them. Soon, this piece of information made its way around the city. De Gafeng found himself watched by the eyes of many. He was not capable of changing his face as easily as Jianchen was, and even with his strength as an Earth Saint Master, there were far too many informers that scoured every nook and cranny of the city to find him. With his prideful nature, he was loath to hide in a dingy and desolate area. Neither did he wish to continue running and hiding from the weaklings that chased him. However, Jian Shen had told him to keep his identity hidden while not taking any drastic measures. In the end, Du Gufeng's arms and legs were tied. Without using his skill to intimidate everyone, he could only temporarily leave Fengyang City. News of Du Gufeng's departure from the city had quickly made its way around. How could anyone who wasn't an Earth Saint Master possibly hope to catch the fast Du Gufeng after he entered the vast outskirts? Therefore, after Du Gufeng left, everyone felt dejected to find that their clues were no longer any use. Such a realization had angered plenty of leaders. Within Fengyang City, in a very luxurious room, several of the more authoritative powers of the Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion had gathered inside. On the bed was an elderly man who sat in a kneeling position. He was the headmaster of the pavilion. Knowing that Fengyang City was now auctioning Class 5 monster cores rather than the carcass of a Class 5 magical beast, he had personally made the trip here to see it. Zhou Tong, 2 years ago 2 Class 5 magical beast corpses found their way into the auction house of Fengyang City. And now 2 years later, 2 Class 5 monster cores are being auctioned. Do you think the supplier behind it is the same person? The headmaster's eyes turned to look to the man next to him. Zhou Tong was the vice-headmaster of the Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion. Although his appearance made him look like a middle-aged man, his true age wasn't too far off from the headmaster. Humming, Zhou Tong said, "The man today looks very different compared to the Wu Yun of 2 years ago." However, that Wu Yun had a mysterious technique that could change his face. If it weren't for the fact someone managed to douse him in a powder 2 years ago, we would have been completely fooled by his disguise. I can only guess that today's person is the very same Wu Yun as before. I've heard of the matter 2 years ago. This Wu Yun is a complex person if he was able to make his escape with so many experts blocking his way. Having him kill so many is only a testament to his strength. Even I would find it hard to accomplish what he did. The headmaster sighed in praise. Zhou Tong couldn't help but think back to the alarming memories of 2 years ago, that Wu Yun's strength was indeed tremendously strong. With 2 years passing by now, he has to have made great strides in improvement. Otherwise, he wouldn't be selling 2 Class 5 monster cores in Fengyang City. Growing silent to think to himself, the headmaster grunted, "Zhou Tong, this Wu Yun is a person our pavilion should not offend at all costs. If possible, we should rope him into our good graces. This man is not a regular man." "Yes, headmaster." In another inn, several middle-aged men were currently seated in a luxurious room. The one who is selling these Class 5 monster cores has to be the very same Wu Yun as 2 years ago. Bah, he killed plenty of the expert of our Yulan clan, and siphoned away plenty of our power. This time our Yulan clan will show our true might without forgiveness. Not only will we obtain the Class 5 monster core, we will take what blood he has spilled from us out from his own body. A middle-aged man fumed with rage as his eyes reflected his hostile intentions. Not too far away from the auction house, a black-robed elder smiled coldly from on top of a nearby inn. Laughing to himself, he said, "Wu Yun, oh Wu Yun. What a vitality you have. 2 years ago, you plummeted down a bottomless chasm, yet you survived. Now that you've appeared just this once again, I won't let you escape again like last time. Even if you've grown much stronger than you were 2 years ago, you will still not be a match for Angst and I. For the very reason of fighting you for that battle skill, I have enlisted Angst to help me from the Harito clan." The following days came with an influx of people that flowed into Fengyang City. News of a Class 5 monster core spread farther and farther as well. From earlier, only people within 1,000 miles had heard of it, but now, people over 1,000 miles had heard it as well. Even some of the families from the first-class cities had come to visit. It was truly a gathering of dragons within Fengyang City. The entire city was not in an uproar because of the situation. Instead, they were quite subdued by their lifestyles. No matter how much they tried to hide it, the people of the city felt a tremendous amount of pressure on them. Even the mercenaries and the young masters of the richer clans had kicked their arrogance down a notch. Even they realized that one could never be too sure if one would meet a civilian or a person one could not offend. After all, men of great strength did not need to reveal it to the public. 7 days quickly passed by. It was now the day that the Heavenly Phoenix auction house would begin its auction. All of the individuals from the city gathered in front of the auction house. Their gathering allowed the Heavenly Phoenix auction house to witness an unprecedented amount of incredible experts that had never been surpassed in their history. In these 7 days, Jian Shen and the group had lived relatively well. With the Haiming clan otherwise preoccupied with the internal affairs of the city, Jian Shen and the others could safely walk through the city without being bothered. Plenty of men had already gathered outside the gates to the auction house before striding through the opening gates. Jian Shen and the others did not enter there. They took the entrance for the honored guests. These rooms had been paid for by Jian Shen for a considerable amount of money earlier. Sitting down in a well-decorated room in boredom, Jian Shen had to wait another 2 hours before the auction would formally start. This auction would be very important to the Heavenly Phoenix auction house, so they had the manager Miss Yulian take charge of the entire ceremony. When Yulian stepped onto the platform, she stepped behind a rather pricey-looking table where a single fist-sized stone could be seen. Distributing all sorts of color, this Class 5 monster core sparkled where it rested. Right by Yulian's side was a cold-faced middle-aged man. Chapter 561, Prosperous Auction, 3. Over 10,000 people had crammed inside the great halls of the Heavenly Phoenix auction house. The news about 2 Class 5 monster cores being auctioned had attracted far more people than the carcasses of the 2 Class 5 magical beasts that had been auctioned before. This time, the auction house didn't charge a service fee. Instead, they only asked for an entrance fee. That wasn't the most important part. The most important part was that in the history of the auction, they had never earned so much money or fame before. Selling 2 Class 5 monster cores was something that even first-class cities would rarely offer, but the Heavenly Phoenix auction had finally done it. While still far away from being the #1 auction house in the Blue Wind Kingdom, they would now be many times better than before. With over 10,000 people, there was not a single vacant spot left open. As far as the eye could see, only a sea of heads could be observed. At this current moment, the entire auction house was still as everyone stared with pointed eyes at the stage where the Class 5 monster cores would be displayed. The extremely precious Class 5 monster cores were something that only the strong could touch. Those of the common stock would never be allowed to take possession of them. However, since this was the very first time that any had appeared in Fengyang City, anyone that had never seen a Class 5 monster core before had been very curious and deeply desired to see one. While everyone had paid the costly entrance fee to enter the auction house, not everyone was there to try and bid for the Class 5 monster cores. The majority of them had only wished to see the core since they knew of the rarity of one. Without a strong backing, none of them would be able to try and lay claim to the monster core. Otherwise, even if they did, they wouldn't have the strength to protect it. When the main host, Yulian, saw that everyone's eyes were on her, she smiled. "I am the manager of the Heavenly Phoenix auction house, Yulian. Today, I speak on behalf of the entire auction house when I welcome everyone for participating in our unprecedented turnout in the history of our operation." After making an introductory speech, Yulian's eyes turned to look at the middle-aged man by her side. "Please allow me to introduce this guest. Our Heavenly Phoenix auction house has taken precautions to make sure no one would dare try to steal it because of the high value of Class 5 monster cores. So, with a request for the City Lord of Huaxin City, we were able to invite an Earth Saint Master to come protect them. This Earth Saint Master guest is the esteemed Mr. Buchen." This next part of Yulian had only been mentioned so that she would discourage anyone from trying to steal it while it was in their possession. When they heard that the person next to Yulian was an Earth Saint Master, everyone had turned to look at him with eyes of admiration and envy. Earth Saint Masters were far and few in Fengyang City. As of right now, only the City Lord and the leaders of the 3 major clans were Earth Saint Masters. With everything cleared up, Yulian had decided to get straight to the point. Clearing her throat, she said, "All right. This one won't waste everyone's precious time anymore. Let the auction for the Class 5 monster cores officially begin. Our first core will be set at a price of 10,000 purple coins. Every bid will further increase it by another 1,000 purple coins. Before anyone else could even speak after Yulian had finished speaking, an elderly voice boomed from one of the VIP rooms. My Harito clan bids 11,000 purple coins. My Harito clan needs only this one monster core and will not participate in this auction anymore after we own one. I hope that everyone here will give my Harito clan some face. A strange silence descended after the old man finished speaking. Everyone glanced at the VIP booth where the voice had originated from with furrowed eyebrows. Those who were just about to start bidding closed their mouths and gave a helpless shrug of their shoulders. Yulian's eyebrows furrowed together as well with a cross look in the direction of the booth where the man from the Harito clan was. A Class 5 monster core was not an easy thing to price on the continent, and the Harito clan was not a clan where anyone would easily dare to start a price war with. To only buy a Class 5 monster core for 11,000 purple coins was a truly outrageous idea, and Yulian was furious to see such a low price like that be the final price for the core. Within one of the other booths, a youth spoke with an indignant voice. The way this Harito clan works is far too much. A Class 5 monster core for only 11,000? Bah, what a blue-blooded family that clan is if they are only offering a sum like that. The middle-aged man sitting next to the youth gave a reply. The Harito clan keeps a low profile, but their strength is beyond strong. No family would dare try to fight them, and with the Harito clan giving this price now, it seems that this will be the lowest priced Class 5 monster core in history. What a great deal for the Harito clan. A Class 5 monster core would normally fetch a price of 100,000 purple coins at the very least within any other city. In another booth, a dozen men of differing ages were gathered. If anyone familiar with Fengyang City were to see the people of this room, then their jaws would drop to the ground in surprise. Each one of these men were representatives of the strongest 4 powers in Fengyang City, specifically the city government and the 3 clans. For the sake of obtaining one of the Class 5 monster cores, the 4 of them had joined forces for the time being. The rather pricey teacup in the city lord's hand had practically been reduced to dust and tea when his hand had shattered it. With a deep growl, he said, "This Harito clan is audacious if they think they can buy a Class 5 monster core for such a low price. Our Fengyang city has attracted the attention of plenty of strong powers from our surrounding area this time. Even those from first-class cities have decided to participate. I would have to presume the Harito clan is one of those powers. If the Harito clan wishes to monopolize the Class 5 monster core, then I believe our chances of obtaining one won't be as easy as buying the corpse of the Class 5 magical beast like last time." The head of the Haiming clan spoke. "Correct. The Harito clan is a clan we should fear at all costs. Even the Blue Wind Kingdom as a whole is not too far above the Harito clan. They too would have to fear the Harito clan." 4 men sat in another VIP booth. There was a single child around the age of 10 along with 2 middle-aged men and a white-haired elderly man. "Grandfather, isn't this Harito clan a bit too much? As if a Class 5 monster core can be bought for only 11,000 purple coins. We can't let them buy it." The child had spoken with a very discontent face. Giving a small smile, the elder explained, "Child, the Harito clan isn't a clan we can offend. They are beyond what you could imagine in strength. The founder of the clan still lives to this very day, and his strength is that of a 6th cycle Earth Saint Master. He only requires a single step to become a Heaven Saint Master, so it should only take him another 100 years or so before the breakthrough happens. He will step into the next realm." Startled, the child replied, "Then doesn't that mean that the Harito clan will soon become one of the strongest powers in the Blue Wind Kingdom?" "Correct. Though, whether or not the Harito clan will become one of the strongest clans in the kingdom will be up to whether or not their founder can become a Heaven Saint Master." No one in auction house, meaning everyone in the VIP booths, possessed an interest in raising the price above the Harito clan's bid. Even the factions that had traveled from far away had no desire to offend the Harito clan. After waiting for a long time on the platform, Yulian felt a depressed sigh well up inside her, especially when she saw no more takers. It seems that this will be history's cheapest Class 5 monster core. she thought to herself. Clearing away her negative thoughts, Yulian loudly said, "The Harito clan bids 11,000 purple coins. Are there any other takers?" 11,000 purple coins, going once. Jian Shen, Ming Dong, and you were all talking among themselves in their chairs at a leisurely tempo. Only Tai Ta was staring out at the spectacle outside their booths, since this would be the very first time he had been to an auction. His entire body practically threatened to break through the window in excitement. The windows to the VIP booths were specially made so that the people sitting within the booths could see outside without a problem, while the people outside could not see what was happening within the booths. Bah, 11,000 purple coins for a Class 5 monster core. This Harito clan is far too frugal with their money. Jian Shen gave a short snort from his seat. Sitting right next to Jian Shen, Yu turned to speak to him after listening to what he said. "We definitely can't let the Harito clan get away with this. If they truly do buy this monster core for 11,000 purple coins, we'd starve to death with our losses. That's only natural. I didn't bring out these two Class 5 monster cores to sell. I am in no shortage of money." Jian Shen laughed. 11,000 purple coin going twice. Yulian's voice could be heard once again. Like before, no one spoke to offer another bud over the Harito clan's offer. Within the Harito clan's booth, 3 men sat inside, 1 middle-aged man and 2 elders. "It seems like our Harito clan will be benefiting from quite a deal if we buy a Class 5 monster core for such a tremendously low price. Kaiser, you are truly a smarter individual than I am." An elder laughed in delight. Seated right next to this elder, the other laughed as well. "This is truly a great profit, but this only a small one. Wait until after the auction finishes, an even nicer surprise will be waiting for us." "What surprise?" Even now, you refuse to say what it is. The elder asked in a happy mood. Kaiser gave a secretive smile to the elder. "It's a secret for now, you'll understand in a moment." "Forget it. If you won't speak of it, then I won't ask anymore. But this Class 5 monster core is as good as ours. As low profile as our Harito clan is, we are still a power that no one would try to go against in the Blue Wind Kingdom." The elder replied. Suddenly, a voice could be heard from one of the other booths as soon as the elderly man finished speaking. "I offer 2,000 purple coins." Not only was the elder stunned, but even Kaiser had fallen into a daze as well. Chapter 562, Prosperous Auction, 4. With this sudden new bid, the entire auction house was alarmed. Not even the smallest of peeps could be heard after the Harito clan had given their astonishingly low bid. Everyone understood just how strong the Harito clan was, so no one was willing to bid against their price. When someone had given an offer higher than the Harito clan, it basically meant they gave no face to the Harito clan. Such an audacious person like this basically meant they did not fear the Harito clan's strength. The auction house had been sent onto a flutter of discussions at this new price. This new speaker didn't announce what family or power he represented, so no one had any idea just where this person was from or what family could possibly be strong enough to act in such a manner toward the Harito clan. Even those sitting within the other VIP booths could only stare in shock and curiosity at the one that had spoken. Within the Blue Wind Kingdom, the Harito clan were known as one of the stronger clans, with only a few daring to ever go against them. Each one of them were very curious about the identity of this mysterious person who would go against the Harito clan. They greatly desired to learn the answer. Within the booth of the Harito clan, Kaiser and the other man looked rather cross. Just who is this person that would dare oppose our Harito clan? The elder asked with a growl as he sank into an unhappy mood. Originally he had been very happy to pay such a low price for a Class 5 monster core. What he didn't imagine was that there would actually be someone else that would try to interfere. Kaiser had quickly calmed back down with a careless smile. "Thanks, don't you worry. Buying a Class 5 monster core for 11,000 purple coins would make everyone feel quite unsettled in their hearts. Perhaps these people only wish for our Harito clan to offer a bit more money?" Hearing this, the elder known as Ankh saw the reasoning behind it. With a hollow smile, he replied, "Right. 11,000 purple coins is simply a very low price for a Class 5 monster core. If one were to be sold within a first-class city, I'm afraid that they would go no lower than 100 or 200,000 purple coins. If we were to really buy one for such a low price, then those who invested such a large sum would boil over in anger. Forget it, our clan isn't short on money. Why don't we sweeten the pot then? With that, Angst thought for a moment before calling out an even larger price. 50,000 purple coins. Whomever this second bidder was, Yulian had been extremely delighted to hear them increase the bid. She had been very unwilling to let the priceless Class 5 monster core be taken away for such an outrageous sum. The two Class 5 monster cores had a service fee attached to them, meaning that the more it was sold for, the more the Heavenly Phoenix auction house would earn. Although the entrance fee for this event alone had made the auction house a wealthy sum of money, it would not fill the money pouch they had on their waists. Yulian gave an appreciative glance at the booth where the 20,000 purple coin bidder was. Although the price was now a mere 40,000 purple coins more than before, it was far better than a measly 11,000 purple coins. The Harito clan has offered 50,000 purple coins. Is there anyone that wishes to go higher? Yulian asked in a loud voice. Her eyes were not looking at the booth housing the Harito clan. Instead, she gave an expectant glance at the booth of the second bidder. Right now, in the entire auction house, this booth contained the only people that would dare to stand up against the Harito clan. 60,000 purple coins. Not failing to disappoint Yulian, the booth had once again called out a price 10,000 more than the Harito clan's offer. This price made the previously 11,000 purple coins pale in comparison. 60,000 purple coins. Is there anyone else that wishes to go even higher? Yulian excitedly spoke as she announced the new bid to the entire room. Right now, the eyes of everyone within the auction house had gathered upon the booth that was going into a price war with the Harito clan. Everyone was absolutely dying to see just who the room contained. The eyebrows of Angst and Kaiser had furrowed together once more. As soon as they announced another price of 50,000, the opposing side had again announced an even higher price of 60,000, and the tone of the other bidder had conveyed a message that gave a bad feeling to the other two. Growing silent for a moment, Angst called out another price, 80,000 purple coins. No sooner did Angst finish speaking when the other booth had called out an even higher price, 100,000 purple coins. 100,000 purple coins. 100,000 purple coins. Are there any other bids? Yulian cried out in excitement. The previously anxious face of Yulian had become extremely delighted after hearing the price raise almost instantaneously. Within the booth of the Harito clan, Angst and Kaiser's face had grown dark. It seems that this matter is not as simple as we thought. There is someone that seems keen on going against our clan. Kaiser growled. Angst did not answer him and snorted before calling out another price, 110,000. This price was already going far beyond what he expected, but for a Class 5 monster core, it was not a loss. 120. Came the next bid. 130. Angst growled. 140. Before anyone else could even think about what was happening, Angst had already been outbidded. Squeezing tighter and tighter, Angst's hand gave several cracking sounds as his anger reached a boiling point. The murderous killing intent flowed unrestrained in his eyes. Just who is this man for him to compete against us in an unrelenting manner? Angst growled. Kaiser's eyes had become frosty as well. Our Harito clan is not lacking in money. If he wishes to do battle, then a battle we shall give him, 150. 160, 170, 180, soon. Both bidders had engaged in a battle of prices within the Heavenly Phoenix auction house. With each bid, the next bid upped the price by 10,000. As wealthy as they sounded, neither side looked as if they treated money for what it was. In a flash, the insignificant sum of 11,000 had almost transformed into a mighty sum of 200,000 purple coins. The heart of Yulian had nearly exploded with joy, and she could not express her appreciation for the figure even if her life depended upon it now. As soon as 200,000 had been reached as the price, Kaiser could handle it no longer. With a strong voice that reverberated across the auction house, he said, "Friend, if you are affiliated with no faction or clan, why must you make things difficult for my Harito clan? This is quite the aggressive assault on us." Kaiser's voice appeared calm without any apparent irritation. The Harito clan wasn't too influential in the Jessen kingdom and did not have a good amount of knowledge on the powers there. He didn't speak too rudely since he was afraid of angering someone he shouldn't anger. In an auction house, everything goes to the highest bidder. Since when have we making life difficult for the Harito clan? We are only playing by the rules of the auction house, that's all. This time, the voice of a woman could be heard. She was melodious in her speech and rather pleasant to hear. Chapter 563, Prosperous Auction, 5. When everyone heard the voice of a woman, many of the men's eyes lit up. They tried to guess just which powerful family had groomed such a beloved daughter that they would allow to throw out so much money against the Harito clan. Some of the men who took themselves to be rather handsome had even begun to dream about attracting the heart of this woman. If they could do that, they would be able to win glory, splendor, wealth, and rank in the future. Even if we can't see her, such a voice like this can only mean that the young miss is a very beautiful woman. If we could see her face, I would be content. What a nice voice, I wonder which beauty would have such a voice like this. Within the auction house, plenty of people could be heard talking to one another as they stared expectantly at the booths. They were all filled with a thirst to gain the ability to see through the window that separated the booth from the hall. They wanted to see the inhabitants inside. Within the Harito clan's booth, Kaiser and Anx had been knocked for a loop when they realized that it was a woman that was fighting them in a price war for the Class 5 monster core. Once more, Kaiser spoke up, "If I may ask which clan you are from, miss?" "We are only a small mercenary group of little renown, that is all." This time, a man replied in a calm voice. This calm voice had been filled with a tone that made Kaiser look even more unsettled. To him, this man's voice was filled with no respect for him at all. It was a voice of indifference that revealed that its thoughts were above the Harito clan and that it despised the clan without any respect. Furious, Anx let out an angry growl. "Within the Blue Wind Kingdom, our Harito clan has very few rivals, and even those other factions would have to do as our clan wishes with a look of respect on their faces. Not only are these whelps making things difficult for our clan, they are refusing to even treat us as a clan to even look at. Unforgivable. Wait until this auction is over, no matter who they are, I will teach them all a lesson that they will never forget." Kaiser snorted as well, "I agree. This cannot be pardoned. From their voices, I can guess that they aren't that old. Humph, a bunch of young upstarts that know not of the immensities of the heavens and earth. They are brats that only know the pond of their backyard if they don't know the might of our Harito clan." "Well said. Our clan won't be missing any money even after this, so why not see just how much money they have?" 210,000. Anx called out an even higher price. 220,000. The other booth called out in response. Even a crow and peacock would refuse to make a sound in this auction house. Only the two booths continued to make noise now. Yulian herself was included in this silence. She could only sit there in a stunned state of bliss. 200,000 purple coins was far beyond what the original price had been. 230,000. Anx spat out the next price with clenched teeth and a dangerous-looking face. 250,000. There had been no pressure in the speaker's voice from the other booth as he effortlessly gave a price 20,000 higher than the previous bid. Bastards, just how much money do they have? Anx slapped his palm against the table and promptly broke it to pieces. 250,000 purple coins was already more than what a Class 5 monster core should cost. With eyes that could freeze the air they looked at, Kaiser hesitated to speak for a moment before relenting. 260,000. 300,000. As soon as Kaiser had finished speaking, the other side increased the bid by another 40,000 purple coins. Such an overbearing attitude like this was no longer treating money as money. Kaiser's and Anx's fists were clenched extremely tight by this point. Their bodies leaked a tremendous amount of killing intent that could be felt by even the inhabitants of the auction house. Everyone knew that the ones in a price war with the Harito clan had offended the entire Harito clan now. Within the other room, Jianchen, Mingdong, Yuyu, and Tai Ta were eating their pieces of fruit without a care in the world. The people who had been outbidding the Harito clan the entire time had been Jianchen's group. Sensing the amount of killing intent radiating from the room where the Harito clan was, Jianchen revealed a cold smile on his face. Men of the Harito clan, this is only a fair competition. What reason is there to be angry? If you do not have the money to match us, then be obedient and bow out. Jianchen's words had caused the bodies of Kaiser and Angst to wildly convulsed. The two of them would likely have destroyed the booths in an attempt to tear apart Jianchen if they had forgotten where they were. This time, the Harito clan did not announce another bid in response. Although they were a wealthy clan, 300,000 purple coins to buy a single Class 5 monster core was not worth it in their minds. After a long period of silence, Yulian had finally found herself speaking again. The honored guest within booth 8 has bid 300,000 purple coins. Are there any other takers? 300,000 purple coins going once. Yulian's voice couldn't help but shake as she spoke. This price was simply astronomical to her previous expectations. 300,000 purple coins going twice, 300,000 purple coins going thrice, and sold. I now declare that the first Class 5 monster core has been bought by the guests in booth 8. The wooden hammer of Yulian smashed against the table, declaring that the first Class 5 monster core had been bought for 300,000 purple coins. Within booth 8, Tai Ta stared at Jianchen in confusion. Jianchen, you spent so much money to buy a Class 5 monster core? Why? That's not worth it. Smiling slightly, Jianchen replied, 300,000 purple coins sounds like a lot, but it isn't anything to me. This money was really just something that fell into the hands of the people in this group. Like the hair from 9 oxen, this is nothing. Jianchen, you wouldn't do something so senseless like this without reason. Do you have a hatred of some sort that required you to use the Class 5 monster cores to draw them out? Mingdong asked out of curiosity. Mingdong's words had caused memories to flash back into Jianchen's mind. His eyes took on a slightly harsher glint to them as he replied, correct. I have a debt to pay with them. 2 years ago, I sold the bodies of 2 Class 5 magical beasts in this auction house. In the middle of it all, the people of the many clans and families chased me. At that time, I was only a Saint Master. With so many people chasing after me, I barely made it out of that place alive. An Earth Saint Master from the Harito clan chased me to the point where I was forced off a cliff in a narrow escape. Mingdong's eyes had a flash of killing intent at his words. With a growl, he replied, so I see. In that case, this hatred will be something that they will definitely pay for. I guarantee it, brother. Sitting right next to Jianchen, Yu said nothing, and instead stared at him with eyes that reflected none of the tranquil expression on her face. Jianchen's words had painted a clear picture in her mind. It was in this moment that she realized just how terrifying a situation Jianchen had suffered if so many individuals had chased Jianchen as a Saint Master. Such a traumatizing experience would make any person shudder. Yen Kaiser of the Harito clan. Not once will I ever forget this name. Jianchen's eyes frosted over with an aura of killing intent. After the first Class 5 monster core was sold, there was a small break before the second monster core could begin being auctioned. Now we shall begin the auction of the second Class 5 monster core. The starting price will be 50,000 purple coins. Each bid will be a minimum of 1,000 purple coins. This will be the very last Class 5 monster core, so I implore each and every guest to cherish their time and make their decision. This will be a once-in-a-lifetime chance to obtain a Class 5 monster core with ease. Yulian announced with a loud voice. She was filled with hope for this next auction, and could not wait to see just how much money the second monster core would sell for. At the end of her words, plenty of people had immediately launched into a barrage of prices. 60,000 purple coins. 70,000. 75,000. One by one the bidders in the booths had increased the price. This time the Harito clan did not bother to interject with their own price, so the amount of people fighting for this one had increased exponentially. Soon enough, the price had already gone over 100,000 purple coins. The Yulan clan offers 110,000 purple coins. The Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion offers 110,500 purple coins. The Tianhua sect offers 120,000 purple coins. The Mutian clan offers 120,500 purple coins. The Kadir clan offers 130,000, 140,000 purple coins, 140,500 purple coins. The price had already skyrocketed far beyond 150,000 purple coins because of the intense price war. At this moment, a new bidder caused every other bidder to pause. The Blaze clan of Tianlong City offers 180,000 purple coins. This class 5 monster core is something my clan needs. I hope everyone will give my Blaze clan some face. Our Feng family of Huaxin City offers 190,000 purple coins. Our Feng family requires this class 5 monster core as well. Please do give us some face for this. Thus, the entire auction house was silent again. The Blaze clan of Tianlong City and the Feng family of Huaxin City were both factions from first-class cities. They were strong in power and were not figures that the Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion, the Yulan clan, or the 3 clans from Fengyang City could go against by themselves. The 3 major clans and the city lord of Fengyang City desire this class 5 monster core. We offer 200,000 purple coins. The lord of Fengyang City had called out. With the 3 major clans of the city combined, they were truly now a figure that did not fear even the families of a first-class city. A class 5 monster core was truly too precious. In a first-class city, only one would appear every 3 years or so, with a tremendous clash following each appearance. When Fengyang City declared an auction of 2 class 5 monster cores, every single power-hungry person had decided this was not an opportunity to miss. Our Guyan clan offers 210,000, the Spirit Hawk mercenaries offer 220,000, the War God sect offers 230,000 purple coins. The price continued to climb. The words of even the clans of a first-class city were no longer any use here, with no one else bothering to give them face. At this moment, every major faction had decided to risk it. Some of these factions were ones with strengths that were almost comparable to the Harito clan's influence. Chapter 564. Winner of the second class 5 monster core. For the sake of giving face to the Harito clan, no one had fought over the first class 5 monster core. Every single person in the auction house had understood how big of a threat the Harito clan was as one of the strongest factions in the Blue Wind Kingdom. Unless they had no choice, no one would feel the need to incur the wrath of the Harito clan. Therefore, they had allowed the first monster core to be taken without a fight. However, the second one would be the very last monster core sold by the auction house. There was no way anyone could possibly let this one go, so everyone enthusiastically bid for it. 240,000 purple coins, 250,000. The price competition was going as strong as before, but there were significantly fewer people bidding now that the price had reached such a sum. 250,000 purple coins was already a shocking amount to everyone, but many people coveted the class 5 monster core. If they didn't, they would have given up a long time ago. 260 purple coins. A short moment later, another person had placed their bid, and this time, the speaker had been the Harito clan. They had failed to buy the first monster core, so trying to buy the second one would not be a breach of their promise. The War God sect offers 270,000 purple coins. The Blaze clan offers 280,000. The Feng family offers 290,000. The Guyan clan offers 300,000. Almost instantly, the Harito clan's bid had been tossed aside as if it was nothing. Right now, the class 5 monster core was at 300,000 purple coins, a sum that very few could weather without disaster. Even the combined forces of the 4 factions in Fengyang City had no more money to continue on. This was a price that went beyond their plans. Within their booth, the Lord of Fengyang City helplessly shook his head. It appears that the class 5 monster core is not fated to be ours. The wealth and riches of these first-class city dwellers is far greater than what we could hope to scale up against. It's unfortunate, a Class 5 monster core appeared within our very own city, but we were not able to obtain it. Blasted Heavenly Phoenix Auction House. It's no wonder they spread news of the monster cores to attract the attention of every single major party. Otherwise, we would have been able to take it for ourselves. One of the men growled in regret. The Foam family bids 310,000. The Spirit Hawk mercenaries bids 320,000. The Foam family bids 325,000. The Spirit Hawk mercenaries bids 330,000. Now that the price had broken past 300,000 purple coins, there were even less people participating. Up to this point, the Foam family and the Spirit Hawk mercenaries were the only two parties left fighting. After that, the Foam family and the Spirit Hawk mercenaries fought each other a while longer. They brought the price to 350,000 purple coins. As soon as this price had been reached, the Foam family no longer bid. Now that the two sides had finally stopped fighting, the previously lively auction house had grown quiet. With the entire auction having gone silent and Yulian seeing no more takers, she finally said, "The Spirit Hawk mercenaries have bid 350,000 purple coins. Are there any other takers?" 350,000 purple coins going once. 350,000 purple coins going twice. 300 purple coins going thrice. Yulian's hammer slammed against the table, and now I declare that the second Class 5 monster core has been bought by the Spirit Hawk mercenaries in booth 15 for a total of 350,000 purple coins. Within booth 8, Ming Dong stared at Jian Chen. "Brother, are you really just going to sell a Class 5 monster core like that?" Jian Chen hummed, "I originally planned on keeping both of them, but I've changed my mind. If there is a mercenary group that wants the monster core, then I'll let them have it. In any case, we will be meeting the Spirit Hawk mercenaries soon enough, so it's best we don't antagonize them." "That's true. If we want mercenary groups swear allegiance to us, then it'd be best to not get on their bad sides. Otherwise, it would make things difficult for us when we try to make them swear in the first place." Yu spoke. Standing up from his chair, Jian Chen said, "Now that the auction is over, we should leave this place. A good show will be taking place in a moment." The Heavenly Phoenix auction house had focused their entire auction on these two Class 5 monster cores this time, so when both of them had been sold, the auction was officially over. Everyone in the booths left the area one after another, and headed out of the auction house. After Jian Chen and the other three left the booths, they left for the area where the transactions would take place in the auction house. On the way, they passed by plenty of precious items. This time, the manager of the Heavenly Phoenix auction house, Yulian, came to personally witness the trade of the Class 5 monster cores. Walking up to the platform, Jian Chen handed over the booth number and a purple card to Yulian. When she took the booth number and gave it a look, Yulian realized that Jian Chen and his party was the very same party that had bid against the Harito clan for the first monster core. With a startled light in her eyes, Yulian studied Jian Chen and his group with a growing amount of alarm. She did not think that the mysterious individual that would stand up against the Harito clan would be four youths. Not a single elder could be seen in this party, and Yulian had her expectations completely blown away. "Milords are quite bold to bid 300,000 purple coins to buy a Class 5 monster core. Might this one know what to call you?" Yulian smiled with a passionate smile in an attempt to scour out what power stood behind this group. Smiling, Jian Chen replied, "Manager Yulian, if I could trouble you to hand over my item." Seeing that the other side wasn't willing to divulge their identities, Yulian did not press the issue. She hid her discontent with a smile. "Very well, allow this woman to oversee the transaction." At that moment, a group of well-armored men came walking forward. When the dowdy-looking man up front noticed Jian Chen's group, he let out a smile. "You must be the lords and lady of booth 8, the one that bid against the Harito clan. This one is the captain of the Spirit Hawk mercenaries, Ing Changkong." Turning his head, Jian Chen saw a man who was roughly 50 years old. The captain was completely draped in black, and possessed an imposing 2-meter-tall figure, an entire head taller than Jian Chen. On the left side of his face, there was a terrifying wound that completely disfigured the left side of his face, but added to his intimidation factor. "Milords and lady, which powerful family might you be the sons and daughter of in the Blue Wind Kingdom? Perhaps I have some sort of friendship with one of your seniors? I heard mention that you were from a mercenary group. Which one might you belong to?" Ing Changkong asked in curiosity. Jian Chen gave a small smile. "Allow me to keep the answer a secret for now. Ing Changkong, we will meet again in the near future." Yulian had already finished the transaction. She handed the Class 5 monster core and the purple card back to Jian Chen by now. Taking both items, he and the other three left the auction house. The captain of the Spirit Hawk mercenaries was left standing there deep in thought as he tried to decipher the meaning behind Jian Chen's words. Outside the Heavenly Phoenix auction house, an endless stream of people could be seen. Right outside the VIP booths, Kaiser and Anks from the Harito clan could be seen staring icily at the entrance as they waited for the people from the 8th booth to come out. All around them were spectators from every major party waiting to see the action. They too were curious to see just what type of deity would oppose the Harito clan. At that moment, the red-robed Dugu Feng had returned to the city and strode over to the Heavenly Phoenix auction house. Now that the auction was over, his mission given to him by Jian Chen was accomplished, and there was no longer a need to hide and conceal himself. "Look! He's the one who sold the Class 5 monster cores to the auction house." As soon as Dugu Feng came close to the auction house, every single person who had kept tabs on him had immediately noticed his arrival. They spread news of who he was. The eyes of everyone who were waiting patiently by the VIP entrance had immediately shifted to Dugu Feng. "Wu Yun, he has to be Wu Yun. Bah, that Wu Yun knows how to change his face. Don't think you can trick us by hiding your face, Wu Yun." One of the middle-aged man from the Yulan clan glared at Dugu Feng with a furious look. The headmaster of the Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion stared at Dugu Feng. "Zhou Tong, is he Wu Yun?" Zhou Tong observed Dugu Feng for a moment. "He's completely different than he was 2 years ago. Though, Wu Yun has an ability to change his facial appearance almost seamlessly. I can't make heads or tails from this. I can only say this person might be Wu Yun, but under a different face. Other than him, would there be anyone else with 2 Class 5 monster cores? How can Wu Yun remain so calm with so many people surrounding him? I'd say that he has something to rely on to escape. We should watch the matter for now," the headmaster whispered. The chattering conversations reached the ears of Kaiser, whose eyes immediately lit up. Concentrating on Dugu Feng, he coldly smiled. "Wu Yun, no matter how much you change your face, you cannot hide from these old eyes of mine. Last time you were lucky to survive, but this time, you will not escape these hands of mine. Your life is mine." Kaiser gave up the idea of waiting for the people of the 8th booth. He immediately flew at Dugu Feng with his saint weapon in hand. Chapter 565, Mistaken Identity. Kaiser flew out of the crowd while holding a giant hammer over his head. A streak of blue light was created. The tremendous amount of water attributed Saint force spilling from the hammer as it flew at Dugu Feng. Coming to a stop, Dugu Feng stared expressionlessly at the figure coming at him. Without looking at Kaiser himself, a burst of fire suddenly exploded from his body. It coiled around him with a sweltering heat that raised the temperature of the surrounding area. With the blaze burning all around his body, Dugu Feng looked as if he had transformed to become a god of fire. With his right hand held out, Dugu Feng clenched it into a fist, forcing the fire around him gather around it. With a swish of his hand, a ball made of fire immediately shot at Kaiser. Bang! The two attributes of opposing nature clashed against each other in mid-air with a loud explosion. The area gave a heavy shudder as the energy from the blast ran through it like an earthquake. Some of the bystanders were even forced back a step. Earth Saint Master, this man is an Earth Saint Master. Was Wu Yun always this strong? It's no wonder that he was able to stave off all of the great Saint Masters in this city 2 years ago. Only an Earth Saint Master would be able to fight him now. No wonder he was able to throw us off his tracks. He was an Earth Saint Master all this time. Dear heavens. I tried to track and fight an Earth Saint Master. It's a good thing he didn't fight us, or else none of us would have been left standing to find out that fact today. Loud gasps of shock could be heard everywhere as they stared at Feng in a new light. To be an Earth Saint Master in Fengyang City was to be one of the best. Respect was to be expected, and all other powers within the city would have to make way for one. Only a trifling 4 Earth Saint Masters lived in Fengyang City, and each one of them were leaders of a major power. When Wu Yun's strength had been revealed, many of the men who were presumptuous enough to want to attack him had immediately gave up that notion. An Earth Saint Master was not a power they could afford to mess with. Kaiser fell back down to the ground with a grim expression on his face. Wu Yun, who would have thought that your strength would make such a drastic change in 2 years? Becoming an Earth Saint Master, eh? You've pulled fortune out from disaster, I see. With both hands clasped behind his back in a leisurely position, Feng merely stood with an empty expression in front of Kaiser. In his eyes there was a glint of a sneer and disdain. He didn't know who this Wu Yun was at all, but he wasn't an idiot. Connecting the thoughts with the strange plan Jian Shen had, he quickly made a rough guess that the person the man in front of him was talking about was Jian Shen. Seeing that Wu Yun did not speak, Kaiser continued to do so in his place. Wu Yun, while you may have managed to become an Earth Saint Master, you don't even hold a candle to the might of my Harito clan. I, Kaiser, extend the same offer I gave you 2 years ago. Hand over your battle skill to my Harito clan and we will not mistreat you any longer. Realize now that the ancestor of my clan is a 6th cycle Earth Saint Master. A step more is all he needs to become a Heaven Saint Master. It won't even take another 20 years before my Harito clan becomes the strongest clan in the Blue Wind Kingdom. Kaiser's words had delivered yet another wave of shock to the people around him. Each and every one of them knew just how arduous and bitter it was to break through to become a Heaven Saint Master. If it would take the ancestor of the Harito clan just 20 years to become a Heaven Saint Master, that bit of information was simply unbelievable to hear. The Blue Wind Kingdom was in a decline now that they had lost several Heaven Saint Masters in the recent war. Only 4 of them were left, and if the Harito clan were to add 1 more to that number, then becoming one of the top 5 would not be implausible for them. A cold sneer appeared on Feng's face. I know many battle skills, but not the one you wish for. Kaiser was knocked for a loop at those words before an ecstatic look appeared on his face. Then bring out your strongest battle skill. Worry not, my Harito clan will not treat you unfairly. The sneer grew even larger as Feng stared down at Kaiser. The strongest battle skill I have are 2 heaven-tier battle skills. Which one shall it be? What? 2 heaven-tier battle skills. Kaiser had immediately gone slack-jawed as he stared at Feng in disbelief. Waves of emotions flowed from his heart like a series of tidal waves. Heaven-tier battle skills were extremely sparse. Even the strongest major powers of the Blue Wind Kingdom didn't own any heaven-tier battle skills. Feng's words had not only caused Kaiser to be stunned, but also the people around him. Each one of them had gone blank in the face. He has a heaven-tier battle skill? Heavens, that can't be true. Out of the surrounding kingdoms, only the Changyang clan of the Jessen Kingdom has a heaven-tier battle skill. I've never heard of any other person in possession of a battle skill of the same magnitude. Pah! Even Heaven Saint Masters would kill to have just one. How is it that an Earth Saint Master like him would have 2? I don't believe it for a second. Yeah, he's got to be lying. With everyone talking to one another, they were all convinced that Feng didn't have a heaven-tier battle skill. Even Kaiser didn't believe that this 20-something-year-old youth in front of him had a heaven-tier battle skill. Taunting him, he said, if you really have one, then why not show it for everyone to see? That's right, show this heaven-tier battle skill for us to see. Open our eyes to this new world. Show us what a heaven-tier battle skill looks like. As Kaiser finished speaking, everyone around him joined in conjunction with eyes that seemed to ridicule Feng. Feng only smiled coldly from where he stood. Looking behind Kaiser, he took notice of Jian Chen, Ming Dong, Tai Ta, and Yu Yu. They had just exited through the VIP entrance. Just barely after Jian Chen had stepped out from the passageway, he gave a small chuckle. Will wonders never cease? The auction has only just finished, yet there is already another spectacle to watch. What an exciting day this has been. Jian Chen had not spoken in a loud voice, but when he spoke, everyone had clearly heard his words. They turned to face him and the other three. Kaiser turned to look at Jian Chen. When he saw the handsome face of his eyes widened as he thought back to the Wu Yun of 2 years ago. Jian Chen's face-changing ability had fooled the eyes of many in Fengyang City, but he had still been forced to escape from the city using the wells and the passageways below. As a result, the herbs he had used to change his facial appearance had been completely washed away, allowing Kaiser to see Jian Chen's true face. Staring hard at the familiar face of Jian Chen, Kaiser slowly enunciated his next phrase word for word. So, you're the real Wu Yun. Everyone was shocked once more when they heard what Kaiser had said. Looking at Jian Chen with bizarre eyes, none of them had ever expected to hear that they had nearly picked a fight with the wrong person. Striding into the crowd, Jian Chen revealed a cold smile on his face. Yen Kaiser, you still remember me it seems. I didn't expect that. You are correct, I am the Wu Yun you threw off the cliff 2 years ago. With Jian Chen himself confirming who he was, everyone else had no other choice but to accept it. They had found the wrong person. This man who had sold the 2 Class 5 monster cores was not the same Wu Yun as 2 years ago. Several strong-looking men quickly walked forward to surround Jian Chen's group. One of the men gave an angry declaration. Wu Yun, you've killed many men from my Yulan clan, an unforgivable crime. You will not leave Fengyang City alive. From the Haiming clan's group, a middle-aged man hurried to the clan head and whispered into his ear, My lord, he is the one that injured the young master a few days ago. A bright light shined in the man's eyes as he replied, I had not thought that it would be Wu Yun that injured my son. Peh, Wu Yun slaughtered many of our men 2 years ago. I shall make good on our debts, both old and new. With that, the man waved his hand and 24 of his men surrounded Jian Chen so tightly that not even water could escape. Studying Jian Chen's group, Kaiser could only detect the strength of Tai Ta and Yu Yu. Ming Dong and Jian Chen on the other hand had completely hidden their presences. They made it so Kaiser had no way to determine their strength. However, Kaiser still hadn't thought the 2 of them to be a threat. They were young after all, they shouldn't be a match for him no matter how strong they were for their age. Kaiser sneered, Wu Yun, you've arrived at a good timing, I've nearly made ill with the wrong person. Whirling around to face Du Gufeng, Wu Yun hesitated for a moment before cupping his hands together. Dear brother, I mistook you for another. I hope you forgive this sin of mine. Perhaps in the future when there is time, please come to Lust City and have a seat with my Harito clan. If this person in front of him had been Wu Yun, then Kaiser would have killed him without thinking of the consequences. After throwing Wu Yun off a cliff 2 years ago, the hatred between the 2 would never be washed away without one of them being killed. With him mistaking the wrong person, Kaiser had immediately felt apologetic to this Earth Saint Master. The Harito clan would view an expert like this with high regards. Du Gufeng refused to say anything, so Kaiser had decided not to mince any more words. He turned to face everyone else. I, Kaiser, have unfinished business with Wu Yun. Please allow my Harito clan to deal with this. Angst displayed a dark expression on his face as he stared at Jian Chen. These 4 are the ones in booth 8 that refused to stand down against my Harito clan. Everyone saw what happened in the auction house yourselves. I hope that you will give us some face and allow the 2 of us to deal with them. Chapter 566, A Full Display of Might, 1. Upon hearing that Jian Chen was the one in the 8th booth that stole the Class 5 monster core, Kaiser's eyes grew even darker. With clenched teeth, he spat, so even now you refuse to stand down from my Harito clan. Humph, yet another sin to add onto your unforgivable crimes. Turning to the head of the Haiming clan, Kaiser cupped his hands together, my apologies, but this is a matter that my Harito clan must take care of. I hope that you will turn this matter over to me. Rest assured, my Harito clan will definitely take vengeance for your clan. A white-robed man with an unordinary air to him walked out from the crowd with a smile. Kaiser, this one is rather skeptical and hopes that you will provide an explanation about why you hold such a deep hatred for this person. Even if it is what happened with the auction, your hatred for such a person shouldn't be as deep as this. This middle-aged man was a figure that even Angst and Kaiser would not offend on a whim. He was the head of the Feng family, another major party of the Blue Wind Kingdom that rivaled the Harito clan in power. Angst looked to Kaiser, for only he could answer that question. Hesitating for a moment, Kaiser replied, Master Feng, this matter involves an event from many years ago that involved the interest of my clan. Please forgive me for not finding this an appropriate place to explain my hatred. What could it possibly be for you to not say it here? Kaiser, in Changkong feel quite curious on this matter as well. Just what in the world did this brother do to offend you for you to hate him to the death? Another voice could be heard from behind as the Spirit Hawk mercenaries walked out of the auction house with their captain leading the group. Kaiser's face darkened, but he said nothing in response. The head of the Feng family looked to Dugu Feng with a small smile. I believe everyone here saw you mistake this brother here for Wu Yun from 2 years ago. Furthermore, you even charged at him and demanded for him to hand over his battle skill. Perhaps Wu Yun has a battle skill that your Harito clan has taken a liking to? The words of the head of the Feng family caused Kaiser's face to twitch. Master Feng, without concrete evidence, please do not make random accusations. Kaiser knew that if a Saint Master was capable of slaughtering several great Saint Masters, then the battle skill would have to be an Earth Tier 1 at the very least. If news of that were to escape, then practically every single expert within the Blue Wind Kingdom would be in an uproar and fight for such a battle skill. If a faction with a Heaven Saint Master were to interfere, then the Harito clan would have to sit idly on the side. Within the scope of the Blue Wind Kingdom, an Earth Tier battle skill was something that every powerful faction would deem highly important. Even the Heaven Saint Masters within the kingdom would have an Earth Tier battle skill as their strongest skill. Laughing, the head of the Feng family looked to Jian Shen. My brother, was what I said true or not? Jian Shen displayed a rather meaningful smile on his face as he replied, correct. 2 years ago Yen Kaiser of the Harito clan saw that I had a battle skill, and set out to kill me in order to obtain it for his own clan. Jian Shen's words caused Kaiser's face to grow even darker. It was now that he knew that this matter with the battle skill was no longer as secretive as he would like. With so many people from so many powerful factions gathered here, even he wouldn't be able to kill them all to maintain the secret even if he wanted to. Little brother, I don't know what battle skill it is that you have, but if it can make even the Harito clan drool at the mouth for it, it can't be a low one at all. Ing Changkong spoke with a serious expression as if concerned. Everyone there could already imagine that such a battle skill enough for the Harito clan to covet it surely had to be a very qualitative one. Such a realization had been enough to ignite the burning greed within everyone's heart as they began to covet it as well. Seeing the avaricious glint in everyone's eyes, Jian Shen gave a disdainful sneer as he wrapped his hands in front of his chest. My battle skill is a high Earth Tier battle skill. As if a bombshell had gone off, everyone was startled to hear that it was a high Earth Tier battle skill. Shortly after that news was revealed, the breathing of everyone there had grown progressively more coarse as they stared at Jian Shen with drool practically leaking from their mouths. A battle skill like that would be considered as one of the strongest within the Blue Wind Kingdom. The expression on Kaiser's face drastically changed, almost like he was filled with regret. If he had known that Jian Shen possessed a high Earth Tier battle skill, then he would have done his best to ensure that Jian Shen wouldn't have been able to say a word. Now that news had made its way out, there was no way that the strongest of the kingdom would remain uninvolved. Kaiser, why didn't you tell me about such an important thing earlier, you bastard? Now look what you've done, you leaked your own secret. Angst howled furiously at Kaiser. With the situation quickly spiraling out of his expectations, Kaiser was already filled with regret at his own impulsiveness. He shouldn't have mentioned the battle skill at all when Wu Yun had appeared. How unexpected that you possess a high Earth Tier battle skill, brother. I would never have suspected such an event like this. In our Blue Wind Kingdom, I'm afraid less than 10 of those exist. Ing Changkong boomed with laughter. There was a bright and warm look in his eyes. A high earth tier battle skill was enough to tempt any person. Slowly schooling his emotions, the head of the Feng family spoke with sparkling eyes. Brother, having such a battle skill like that would be a burden to you. It would be undoubtedly dangerous to continue on in such a manner, but I have a particularly problem-free method of solving that. My Feng family has a decent relationship with the strongest sect within the Blue Wind Kingdom, the Ziji sect. Why not sell it to them? They will guarantee your well-being. In the case that you have the Ziji sect supporting you, then no one within the Blue Wind Kingdom would dare try to cause trouble for you. Give it some thought. The master is correct. Young brother, the Ziji sect is very strong and has a Heaven Saint Master presiding over it. Within the Blue Wind Kingdom, they are most likely the strongest group. If they are behind you, then none of the other smaller factions would dare cause trouble with you. This is something that you wouldn't even have to worry about being taken advantage of. An elder that had been standing right next to the head of the Feng family spoke. His voice seemed meaningful and sincere, as if completely worried about Jian Chen's well-being. Kaiser's and Ank's faces turned to the color of pigskin in their anger and gloom. The Ziji sect was one of the strongest factions within the kingdom, and were connected with the royal family themselves. Such a power was not one that the Harito clan could easily scale up against. Even if the Harito clan's ancestor managed to break through to become a Heaven Saint Master, they would still not be able to stand up to the Ziji sect. Not only was the Ziji sect far more powerful and richer than the Harito clan, but the Heaven Saint Master was an established individual with plenty of power. Everyone else had been startled to hear mention of the Ziji sect as well. Each one of them sighed as they realized that if Jian Chen were to seek asylum with the Ziji sect, then they would lose this chance of earning such a strong battle skill. Jian Chen smiled. I thank you for your kind intentions, but the high earth tier battle skill doesn't require any protections. There is no need for Lord Feng to worry. The expression on the man's face grew taut as he replied in concern, young brother, you must think this through carefully. An earth tier battle skill is extremely precious. Without the Ziji sect to safeguard you, a multitude of troubles will surely come your way. Your life could very well be at stake here. The head of the Feng family had wished that this person would allow himself to hand over the battle skill to the Ziji sect. If that were to be done, then the Ziji sect would undoubtedly see the Feng family in a better light, and this matter would help serve to bridge the gap between the two factions. Without hesitation, Jian Chen shook his head. This is a problem that doesn't require your concern. Whatever small problems come my way will be dealt with by my people. Seeing Jian Chen decline the offer to be protected by the Ziji sect, was met with the sparkling eyes of everyone around him. Each one of them felt their hopes reignite within their hearts as they realized that this was yet another chance to take the battle skill. If they were the ones to hand over the battle skill to the powerful factions, then they would gain benefits as well as being able to copy down the battle skill for themselves first. Wu Yun, you killed many men from my Yulan clan 2 years ago. How do you plan to explain that? The head of the Yulan clan accused. Thinking back to their previous grievances, he was prepared to fight for the battle skill. You've killed plenty of men from my Haiming clan as well as harming my dear son grievously. I will not allow my clan to stand idly by the side and watch. The head of the Haiming clan spoke. There is also my Yang sect. 2 years ago, my sect fell prey to your hands. Today, this debt of ours will be wiped clean with your blood. There is also my Tianmu clan. 2 factions that had been involved with Jian Chen had begun to announce their own grievances with him one after another. With everyone taking advantage of the situation to advance their own agendas, they were planning to use what had transpired 2 years ago in order to try and obtain the Earth Tier battle skill. As for the ones who had traveled to the city from far away, they only stood by the sidelines in silence as they observed the situation unfold in front of them. With everyone throwing their lot with the people who held grievances, Kaiser knew that there was no time to waste. Otherwise, something else might possibly happen to alter the situation once more. With no time to spare, he clutched his hammer and flew at Jian Chen with a cry, Wu Yun, we may as well settle our debts here and now. The same time Kaiser had moved, Du Gufeng had moved into action as well. With a bright red sword of fire, he moved without hesitation to slash down onto Kaiser. Sensing the strangeness of the situation behind him, Kaiser's face darkened as he whirled around, and used his hammer to block the incoming sword strike. With the two Saint weapons making contact, there was a tremendous surge of Saint force. It rippled and destroyed the streets as the energy washed over the ground. A single strike later, Kaiser was sent flying back 3 steps worth of distance while De Gufeng stood in his original position without shaking at all. The one at a disadvantage was already clear to see. Chapter 567, A Full Display of Might, 2. There was a grim expression on Kaiser's face as he stared aghast at De Gufeng. The fact that De Gufeng was an Earth Saint Master was surprising enough, but he didn't think that De Gufeng would also be stronger than him by a decent amount. Sire, what is the meaning of this? If it is for my earlier slight, this old man has already apologized to you, or was that not to your satisfaction? Kaiser asked with a dark tone. De Gufeng's strength was stronger than his own, causing him to feel slightly worried. A person like this was not to be fought against unless there was no other choice. Still clutching the flame sword, De Gufeng stared expressionlessly at Kaiser. His eyes were brilliantly cold, but he did not speak a single word. Instead, he slowly walked toward Jian Chen's group in front of everyone's wide-open eyes, and stood resolutely right behind him. Now that they were greeted with such a sight, everyone had come to the startling realization that the two of them were of the same group. There was a very uncomfortable look on Kaiser's face as he connected the dots between the person he apologized to and Wu Yun. An extremely embarrassed look crept onto his face as he suddenly felt like palming his own forehead. I didn't think that you two would be working together. Wu Yun, you have some stuff to you if you were able to bring an Earth Saint Master into your fold, but if you think a single one would be able to intimidate me, you are simply far too naive. Kaiser spoke with clenched teeth. Staring at Kaiser as if he was beneath him, Jian Chen sneered, who is the naive one, I wonder? You'll find out soon enough. Yen Kaiser, I will settle this 2-year debt of ours today. That much is right. We will settle it once and for all. Not once have I ever thought that you would escape after being pushed down that cliff, but here you stand in front of me 2 years later. You must hate me tremendously for what happened that year, so I, Kaiser, will offer you a fair match. But the people here are too many for my liking. Why don't we go outside to settle this? Kaiser smiled coldly in return. Now that the battle skill had been revealed, everyone was waiting for a chance to snatch it from Jian Chen. With the way things were now, the best way to grab a hold of it would be to wait until Jian Chen was dead or beaten, and then take the battle skill from his body. If there were no battle skills to be found, then he could still be taken home and interrogated. As a result, every single party here with a grudge against Jian Chen were fighting each other to be the first to announce their grudges. These announcements were in fear that someone else would take advantage and fight Jian Chen first for his battle skill. Fighting him in a fair battle and obtaining the battle skill after his defeat was what everyone planned on doing, Kaiser included. Jian Chen gave a light shake of his head to decline Kaiser's suggestion. This place will do, it's a large enough area. I've not enough time to waste going with you to run off to some place. Staring coldly at everyone else around him, Jian Chen smiled. 2 years ago, I became an enemy to plenty of people here. So, now whomever has a grudge stand forward. We will sever that grudge here and now. Brat, you're being impudent. Don't think that because you hired an Earth Saint Master to help resolve your matters you'll be able to get away. You killed plenty of people from the 3 major clans of Fengyang City, not a single one of our clans will ever forgive you for that. Another 3 people distinguished themselves from the crowd as the 3 major clan heads of the city. In this current moment, the representatives of the 3 major clans had stepped in front of Jian Chen as the ones that would fight him. Only the lord of the city was left standing behind in silence. Sweeping his eyes around the place, Jian Chen asked in a calm manner, who else bears a grudge with me or desires my Earth-tier battle skill? Step forth now. By his last phrase, Jian Chen's voice had grown progressively colder. Wu Yun, you rampant bastard. Do you think yourself to be a Heaven Saint Master? Even with so many of us here, you'd still dare to act in such a presumptuous manner? Do you mean to ignore us as if our existence isn't even worth noticing then? One of the middle-aged men growled. With 3 of the major clans of Fengyang City and the 2 members from the Harito clan, there were already 5 Earth Saint Masters gathered in opposition. The very notion that Jian Chen dared to act in such a manner against 5 Earth Saint Masters angered them all greatly. Such an action was clearly disregarding their power, and for people that enjoyed the respect others gave them, this was an unbearable action. The tiger cub sat quietly in its spot in Jian Chen's robes. Both of its eyes were filled with an intelligent light. It glanced around the place filled with curiosity. Affectionately rubbing the fur of the tiger cub, Jian Chen gave a smile that felt more cold than it was warm. Those with no business here should stand down or risk injury. Ming Dong, De Gufeng, whomever stands against us, slaughter them. Without a word, De Gufeng flew forward with fire billowing from his flaming sword as he hefted it into the air. In an instant, he had already flew toward the great Saint Masters, and aimed his sword at their chests to successfully bisect some of them in half. Ming Dong had not hesitated either. As soon as Jian Chen gave his commands, Ming Dong took out his own saint weapon, and transformed into an azure light that flew off with unbelievable speed toward Kaiser. Throughout his actions, there had been an intense killing intent within the eyes of Ming Dong. The sudden actions of the 2 men had caused a war to form between both sides, which forced the surrounding bystanders to quickly run back a few steps. This was to avoid being caught in the battle by accident. As a user of Wind Saint Force, Ming Dong was extremely fast. All Kaiser himself could see was a blur of azure light before a single long sword appeared right in front of his chest. In his panic and shock, Kaiser brought his hammer up to narrowly defend himself against the sword stroke. Bang! The accumulated energy within Ming Dong's sword burst forth upon impact with Kaiser's hammer in a far larger scale than what had exploded from Kaiser's weapon. Consequently, Kaiser was sent flying into the air before landing on the ground roughly 20 meters away. His feet stumbled one after another as he tried to stabilize himself. It had taken another 10 or so meters before he was finally able to stop himself from falling over. Whenever he had stepped on the ground to stop himself, cracks had formed from the amount of force he had used. One area of marble had been reduced to dust. But how can this be? You're a 6th cycle Earth Saint Master. Kaiser gasped in shock at the youthful face of Ming Dong. He couldn't believe what he had experienced, and was having a small panic attack within his heart. His face rapidly paled as he properly registered the strength of the youth. His strength was practically on the same level of strength as the head of the Harito clan. From the very beginning, Ming Dong had hid his strength so that no one that looked at him would know that he was an Earth Saint Master. Now that he had begun to fight, the strength that he was hiding had finally been revealed. This reveal had been world-shaking to everyone who had initially thought him to be a mere great Saint Master, and many of them still couldn't quite believe it when they looked again at how young he was. The head of the Feng family had been surprised as well to see Ming Dong's strength. It's no wonder, if that youth is a 6th cycle Earth Saint Master, then there is no question about why Wu Yun was so calm in such a situation. If he can rely on a figure like that, then no faction here would be able to last against a 6th cycle Earth Saint Master. The headmaster of the Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion rejoiced to himself in secret as well. I had no idea that Wu Yun would have someone as strong as him. 6th cycle Earth Saint Masters are very rare in the Blue Wind Kingdom. All it takes is a single step more to become a Heaven Saint Master. It's a good thing I did not step into this affair as well, or else I could have very well died here today. The vice headmaster was gleeful as well. Headmaster, you are truly wise beyond belief. Our pavilion has escaped this calamity in one piece. We should step back a bit and watch how these 3 clans will survive this ordeal. A 6th cycle Earth Saint Master stands a very good chance against 5 Earth Saint Masters. If he holds a battle skill, then, the Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion headmaster sighed and spoke no more. There wasn't a need to finish his sentence for anyone to understand. The surrounding crowd had given a large space for the group in the middle to fight it out. The appearance of a 6th cycle Earth Saint Master symbolized a truly powerful force that everyone greatly feared. Even the major factions of a first-class city wouldn't dare offend such a figure. You're tuning in to the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.